Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords channel and podcast, where today I have a full crew of admirals joining me to interview Jeremy Veysseire. Jeremy, I hope I've not butchered that too much.
No, that was flawless, actually.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, it's great to have you.
For having me.
Recently went 5-0 at Old Town Throwdown with 5 ships. So 5-0, 5 ships.
Yep, 5 ships.
Yeah, cool. To help me interview Jeremy tonight, I'm of course joined by my ever faithful avatar of Grombrindle, Duard and Max. Welcome, Max.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Jeremy.
And of course, my gunnery sergeant, thunderer from down under, Mr. Alexander Cron.
Morning, guys. This ironclad's certainly not flying high this turn.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. And tree surgeon to the Garden of Nurgle, Mr. Matthew Parker. How are you, sir?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Doing well. Thanks again for having me on, Lee.
Yes, pleasure to have you. Been a while since we've had you on the show. But yeah, cool to have you. A few people in the chat. Alexander Hernandez, Jay Durfu, Calcos Motorsports, which is, I think, Scott that went to Old Town Throwdown as well. And they're talking about Zon went 5-0 somewhere. I'm not aware.
No, it's a joke.
Oh, okay.
Because it hasn't happened yet. It's happening next week.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
It is.
What? Yeah, well, maybe Zon will go for 5-0 somewhere. Hopefully.
Well, I'll do my best.
Is this in 2.0 though? That doesn't count.
Yeah, it's 2.0. He didn't say when. So.
You live in the future, but you're playing in the past.
Yeah.
Calcos Motorsports with a shot across
stuff.
Calcos Motorsports with a shot across the bow, aimed straight at Duard and Max there with the. I believe when we were reviewing the list for the first Old Town Throwdown, you mentioned that Scott Adams was going for a bit of a special snowflake with his custom Skyport.
Yeah,
it seems he has not forgotten.
I stand true to that statement.
I wouldn't be surprised if you said it to me as well at some point, Max.
Yeah, but we all know that you're always looking for that special weird rule interaction, and then it just doesn't work out somehow.
Work, no. Like Applebee's. So I think because we've got a bit of news, but before we jump into that, Jeremy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That sort of...
Sure. So hi everybody, I'm Jeremy. I've been playing Warhammer since I was 9 years old, and I'm 36, so way too fucking long. Actually, it was my gift for moving to the United States, because I'm originally from France, and I grew up in the West Coast of America, and it was like my parents' way to bribe me into being okay with moving to America was buying me my first Warhammer sets, which was Seraphon versus Bretonnians. So that's how long I've played Warhammer effectively. And in terms of the KO, I played them since they basically came out. I just never took them to tournaments because I never, like, the 1.0 KO was like super gimmicky, like army. It just did not feel fun to play like at all. And then 2.0 KO was getting, like, it got fixed a lot of the issues the 1.0 had, but it was just it was hard to, like, I wanted to play dwarves, and I played Fire Slayers for so long. I was like, I'll play Kharadron Overlords for the next few years, and like for tournaments and stuff. And here we are now. I'm playing. So that was a TLDR for that.
I was gonna say I'm surprised we haven't had Jeremy on before, because him and Max would be just like best bro buds, best Duard and bro buds.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
especially as I'm seeing your shirt, Jeremy. I just realized I'll see you next week.
At the end, that's right, you will.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have 72
the
hours.
name sounds familiar, but where have I heard it? And then I see the shirt, Team USA. That's
awesome. I'm a co-captain this year for Team USA. My first time for ETC/AOS, whatever you want to call it nowadays, whatever the name for it is. And I'm sure I'll see you in Milan, and I'll probably see you hopefully in the next one too. in May next
Prague.
year.
Yeah, in Prague. I'm hoping to.
Prague. Yeah.
Cool. Are you playing KO at that, or are you playing a different army?
Oh, I'm playing Fire Slayers. Like they're like, hey, but we need a Fire Slayer player. How about we just grab the best one in the country? And that was literally Bill's like, what? I actually painted my Fire Slayers to be like, when I got him, I was like, if we play Fire Slayers KO for Team America, they're all painted to look like American gunboats. Like they have like American like colors and everything, and then they're like, no, we're gonna need to play Fire Slayers. Cool.
Well, once that Seraphon book came out, it was just like, I don't know if we'll need another Order army.
Yeah, that's pretty like that's fairly 100% accurate statement.
Whoops! All
What do you
stinks.
What do we mean? We need more teleporty shooting. Like we already have Zinj, Seraphon. Do we really need Kharadron Overlord?
Yeah, you need a hammer in there. That was my bid to for the Team America spot, was that like, hey, if you haven't filled a specific chaos role, I can be an absolute anvil that just does not move. Because yeah, one of these days.
Don't worry. What? I like your aspirations. I look forward to your application next year.
Yeah, and the subsequent rejection. No, my strategy is to get Bill Souza so drunk at LVO that he like personally in writing guarantees me a spot, and then that's where that's my in.
You know what? If you beat Bill Caesar, then that would probably get you in.
There you go.
Well, that's not going to happen. So I'll go with getting him wasted.
You just gotta catch Bill in the perfect triangle, because Bill only plays hipster list because he's a hipster. So you gotta catch him when he's playing a hipster list, and he's really like maybe like 5 or 6 PBR Rainiers in, and then you got him.
There you
That's
go.
like the right.
There you
perfect,
go.
like,
Yeah,
perfect
the right equation.
Okay, cool. Well, we've got quite a lot of news to talk about, so maybe we should jump straight into that, so we can then, get into the meat of the show, which will be, talking about how you did at Old Town Throwdown, Jeremy. So news. First thing, of course, is Stormcast book and the Swampy Boys, whatever they're called. Can't remember. They're not coming till September, so that's a thing.
Why did they make the same mistake that they just made, that everybody's mad at them? They're like, hey guys, it's coming out in September, it's coming out in August. Cool. Doesn't come out in August. And internet rage. They're like, okay. It's definitely coming out in September now. So don't be mad at us. And then if it ever gets delayed again, it's like, why even put another timeline on it? I just don't get it.
It's a company of fans, right? They're all fans of their product. So at the end of the day, they're excited to share it with all of us, and they just made regrettable logistical decisions. That's really what it comes down to.
They pulled a classic Matt Barker. They pulled a classic Matthew Barker where they overpromised and underdelivered. I mean, that's just.
I mean, dragons.
Dragons.
Dragons. That's the whole selling point of the book, is going to be chariots with greyhounds and dragons.
Yeah, considering
I'm sold.
The book with all the dragons is delayed, and there's no like Daenerys memes going around saying, "Bring me my dragons."
I know, right?
I'm surprised that's not happened yet. But
not yet. No,
I mean, they probably could have quelled everybody's anger by just saying, "Hey guys, listen, I know it's delayed, but dragons are coming for sure."
They could have said it's delayed, but here's an app. But where's that app?
Oh no!
It's just, and I think it is delayed because the app's not ready, and they want all the stuff to be in the app because they want the battle tomes to be like downloadable code as they have in 40k now and stuff. But the app, we know, GW and apps it's not going to work out.
They're not IT specialists.
It's like no,
they're really not.
I don't know.
I mean, hopefully they credit everybody's digital purchases on the app that people maybe have spent hundreds of dollars buying all their battle tomes and rule books and everything. Like, I would hope. Nope.
They already said that. That's why the Warhammer Vault is for. If you subscribe to Warhammer Plus, that's what Warhammer Vault is for. So,
yeah,
they already said. They already addressed that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Of course, the rest of the news is the FAQ.
FAQs.
Next topic.
Alpha Pack is
Why?
canon.
Yes, I knew. I was waiting for Alex to get excited about that one.
Okay. So,
I've
Kron,
been waiting so long.
Kron, you're obviously excited. How does everyone else feel about the FAQ?
I'm missing some clarifications for KO. I'm happy that some things changed and got clarified. That's good for the game. Some surprising things like Archeon losing his Eye of Ed Sheeran ability, or like it changed.
Ed Sheeran.
the Eye of, I don't know, what was it called? Sheeria?
Jana Casimir.
No, it's Ed Sheeran.
And that was surprising to me, at least.
It was random.
Then this whole weird ward after ward save, feel no pain, bodyguard interaction. I hope they'll clean it up because it's a mess.
Yeah, that's a real mess. Putting on my daughter's arcane hat for a second. 4 saves per wound now. Is that what we're getting? So we get an armor save, we get a fanatical faith, we get a regallable fanatical faith, now we get a ward save. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's back to 2nd edition Nurgle when I Kron, same thing. When I had 4 save Nurgle Marauders. I had their armor save. I re-rolled with the War Shrine, and then I had the Harbinger Decay save, and then the War Shrine ward save. So it was just insane.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's they need to clean that up. It's gonna be because it's in contradiction to the AOS 2 GHB 2020 rule that you cannot have multiple ward saves, which they specifically put in there.
I think it was unforeseen. Something they just didn't even think about. I think they just didn't even anticipate that being a thing, and they rushed it out because people were like, "Where's the FAQ? Where's the FAQ?"
And the intern was on holiday, so no one knew how to operate the PDF creator, and everything was panicking, and they just put it out.
I think most of the guys with the rules team, right? They already basically wrote the rules for the next 2 years of battle tomes for the most part. And it feels like they fact that change, thinking about all the other battle tomes coming out. Because I'm guaranteeing you there's going to be mechanics in the new battle tomes which are going to be rare, where they'll have these shrug saves which are not ward saves. And they wanted to they basically made a ruling preemptively before the rest of the tomes are out, which makes no sense. But that's what they were probably basing it off, right? It's
interesting.
They're not living in the current battle tomes. They're living in the new battle tomes that no one has seen. So
it's the same. I totally agree. It's the same when the Soulblight Battle came out, which obviously was written for the new edition, and you had things like, here's a command ability that gives you reroll once to hit. Like, why do I need this? I mean, the Admiral had it for years. Now we know why.
A year later, the Admiral's like, my time has come.
Actually, it has. I'm using him.
Yeah.
He's great now. He's really good.
He's good.
Every list,
But I completely agree with Jeremy there. They need to think ahead, and we have seen it in the new books and the new war schools we have seen for Dominion. They call it a ward save, basically, and that's the name of the thing. But other armies still have that some name, whatever it is, faithful or I don't know, frenzy, whatever it's called with those.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Deathless Minion were always going to be not a ward save. They're always going to be a shrug save. Is I'm guessing Death's basically generalized trait is always going to be not a ward save. That's how I read the fact. It's no, there's certain things which we want it to be an additional layer of durability. But for design rules, I don't really get because they were they're let's reduce the amount of dice roll in the game.
Mm-hmm. And then add 5 more rolls.
And then they added back. So I was like, okay.
So if I'm putting on my Nurgle hat, I'm really curious on how they're going to do Disgustingly Resilient in a new battle tome, given what Jeremy just said, where they've sort of perhaps made a preemptive ruling or made a rule with the anticipation of a couple of battle tomes coming out. So now I'm just extra nervous for a new battle tome.
It's going to be something like Ignore One Red.
Yeah.
Please
make
stuff
more resilient without more rolls. So you just add a modifier.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing in the FAQ pertaining to Kharadron Overlords, I was happy to see clarified, although it went against something that I really wanted to, is the caster moving of endless spells. So if you use spell in a bottle, he's the caster, but he can't control him because he's not a wizard. So I was really excited to abuse the shit out of Realm Scourge Rupture, but now if I want to control it, I'll have to turn it wild by moving my chemist 30 inches away, so then it becomes wild, so then I can move it my turn.
Just take your arcane tome, Matthew, and get over yourself. That's
interesting. That's an interesting workaround. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I expected it to be that ruling, and I think already stonks of spell on a bottle have gone down a bit because there's all these predatory endless spells are less interesting. They're still good, but it's still a great argument.
Warp Lightning Vortex, like this. It's just spell Warp Lightning Vortex in a bottle. Like that's the only option really we have now.
Well, it's that's so early 2020, like Warp Lightning Vortex. Come on, you're telling me I'm living in the past, people.
Yes. You're playing Kharadron Overlord.
Warp Lightning Vortex.
Unfortunately, boats. The interaction between garrisons and boats hasn't been addressed. So when you leave a boat, you have to do it at the end of the movement phase. Is that still that's how it's done? So that means the boat can't fly high. So
unless some future ability gives a behemoth the ability to move at the end of the phase. I don't know.
Despite what endless Facebook questions and debates say on the Facebook group, yes, the War Scroll flying transport does not just give you the ability to ignore the core way that garrisons work. So, yeah, unfortunately, if you want to get out of a garrison, you have to forfeit a turn of movement from the Ironclad, which you're not going to be flying high every turn anyway, especially if you get caught in combat or something, or you get caught with a flying unit. So. It is what it is.
There's a safety and quality meeting. There's a safety and quality meeting. We need to get out of the boat in a proper, organized, safe manner now. It is a whole process.
Please put on your swimming wear.
HR has been on our ass about just jumping out of the boat randomly as it's flying off into the atmosphere.
Do not inflate your jacket inside the plane.
The one fact change I was surprised they didn't give to KO was they didn't make frigates or ironclads elites. That was like one of the things I was kind of thought they were going to do. Yeah. Just because in the games I've been playing in 3.0, I'm always kind of like, oh, this frigate has like no heroes nearby. Cool. It does nothing. It seems that it felt like one of those things I felt like they could have added. It was just like, hey, there's an entire commanding crew on that boat. How the hell are they gonna not use command ability?
It even says on the text on War Scroll it has a navigator and Endermaster.
Yeah.
It literally says that they're on board and they have abilities. Why can't they give
that was the one that was a change I was hoping for was the elite.
Yeah.
Can't have everything.
It wouldn't work on my Ironclad personally because the navigator that's in the top of my ship has got like the stein with the beer in it, so he's like too drunk to even issue commands. So
no, he's the one.
He issues more.
Everything just
most of the commands are get me another beer, but
oh, that's too good.
So to circle back to the getting out the ships thing, it is worth asking TOs because some tournaments are ruling it that you can get out during the phase. So it's certainly, I mean, depends where you are.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Isn't that what Michael Scott said?
Also, there's a question in the chat from Cal Coast Motorsports that you can get out of the boat when the boat is in combat. And with the new rulings, I think the last part of the text. Yes, you can. If you're if the boat on the front is in combat, you can get out the back door.
Yeah, you just have to be free.
Yeah, because the setup is not you're not moving. Yeah. So I think the argument was because in 3.0 it's like when you at the start of the movement phase, you have to declare if you're doing a normal move, a run, or a retreat move. But disembarking of a garrison is considered a setup move. It's kind of weirdly, it's a move, but it's not any of the following. So
also, the garrison rule changed. I believe before you couldn't leave the garrison if there was enemies nearby.
Yeah, because you had
now it doesn't matter. Now you can just
you could away from in 2.0 as well. The thing is, one of the things they changed in 3.0 is it doesn't actually say it's instead of a move or counts as a move for getting out. It's only for getting in the boat. So, but yeah, so I mean, they changed some things.
You can. It's fun.
Others.
Yeah, you can get out the back and then shoot people.
Yeah, they can. So I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say if you're in combat and your boat's still up, I don't know who charged you, but they made a mistake. I
don't know. Maybe they charged you 2 units of Aether Wings, so you wouldn't be able to fly high next to them and shoot.
Oh, you and your 2 units of Aether Wings, just kill those Aether Wings. What's your problem? Just unleash hell on one and last for the other and bomb it.
You don't even need to unleash hell with Aether Wings. You could just unleash heck and the Aether Wings. Unleash HE double hockey sticks.
That's why it's 2 units, because obviously you don't
Lance cutlery out of the window.
Okay, so we've mentioned some of these FAQs already. I've only really prepped the KO ones, and then some of the ones, the main ones. So this one is one they didn't actually need to answer. If a unit is the Battle Regiment Core Battalion, it's something we asked originally when the when we got 3.0 and stuff. But then when we actually went back and read the rules properly, it's like, well, when you do
because you need to set up everything, but you do one unit after the other. So you set down your anklet, then it's just you continue setting up everything that's in the battalion before your opponent goes with an next setup. That's the only difference.
Yeah. This question was actually asked in my community, like whether or not the battle regiment thing whether or not it was Warsaw Regiment or Warsaw Battalion or normal battalion. It was asked, so I guess we have an answer.
Yeah,
there's an answer.
Because the thing is, it's different to how it worked in 2.0, and everyone had their 2.0 brain on for a little while. So, okay, so there's that one, which is easy. We mentioned the end of spell thing. Because this actually goes against rules as written, but at least it's an answer. In some ways,
it's just nice to know. It's just nice to know. I know. I was just hoping against hope that I would be able to double tap the Realm Scourge Rupture every turn, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you were never going to be able to move the end of spell, but it's nice that they clarified that it is wild, because the very first part of the end of spell rule mentions the bearer. So it says, so he would have cast as there was.
You mean the caster?
Caster. Did I say bearer? Yeah.
Yep.
Caster. So at least we now know it's wild, which means you do get to at least move the spell once
on your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. It just means it's going to be moved straight back at you next turn.
Well,
unless
Realm Scourge Rupture,
right? Exactly.
Move one direction.
Yeah.
So that still works.
Yeah, so at least you can actually move the spells at least once, but I mean, Warp Lightning Vortex
doesn't move.
Yeah,
I mean, if you keep going second, you're going to keep moving it. Especially if there's only one endless spell, right?
No, because that's different. That's different.
Yeah, it moves every hero phase.
Right, but it's whose turn it is, right? Was it first?
Yeah, but
okay. So you mean if you get the double turn? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you get the double turn, then you'll move it twice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but I think I want to be a special snowflake.
Back.
I want to be the special snowflake, and I want to take Realm Scourge Rupture in a bottle instead of Warp Lightning Vortex.
Just take an Arcane Tome, Matthew.
Use that, or I still believe the ones that don't move, the static ones, are better. That one's Soul Snare Schnackles. They're just
Schnackles.
The better ones.
The amount of times that I have already shackled myself when I really wanted to charge has been really frustrating.
Oh well.
That's what you have a navigator for, Matthew, so you can dispel it before you do that.
Yeah, I know.
Last weekend, I actually moved my Thunderers off an objective to move them out of range of my own Warp Lightning Vortex. That was poor planning.
That's it. The honest reason why I'm not using that, because I kept charging in my Ender Master and killing him.
Yeah.
Like, let's finish them off.
Okay. So Con mentioned Alpha Beast Pack, and of course the question also Sylvan as well. Clarified that nicely. They didn't go as far as they did last time around, where they sort of said, "Yeah, and you can also hitch with Skyriggers."
That one for me was huge. That was my favorite.
Yes. So I mean, yeah, we still don't technically have an answer whether you can hitch in the hero phase or pre-game. My assumption is you can't, because
rules as written you can't, even though it weird because they allowed you specifically to before, and then through just an omission, they're like, guess not, and so it's just kind of weird. Just hope and pray for a new Duarden book, Duarden Soup book.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Jeremy, I'm interested to hear how you feel about this, because obviously you have Alpha Beast back in your list.
Yeah, and I don't want to foreshadow too much, but I never used it. It was just the only battalion I could put the frigates in. So I was just like, cool, I'll take it just in case it comes relevant. But I actually didn't feel comfortable ever using it for Sky High. But the reason I actually like this ruling, and I know you guys probably are going to like, Jeremy, you're crazy, but I was super unclear to me when 3.0 came out if you could fly high while in combat, even though it said in the parenthesis you can disengage, but it says in the first line when you make a normal move. And then it was like, well, in 3.0 they basically said if you're in combat, it's never a normal move. And I was like super on the fence, like, can I sky high while I'm in combat now? Like, is that a thing? It's like kind of unclear. And this is basically kind of saying, yeah, you can, like, for me that answered that step. That even though it's not what they wrote it for, but it does say like any effect that lets you basically move, like you can still do a fly high or making a normal move.
They also added in with the errata that you could do it instead of a retreat, didn't they? So
yeah. It was just that, which answers the reason why. By the way, that's why I took a homebrew Skyport. But for me, like most of the time, the sand tracking ability is a trap. I would never use it anyway, unless there's like a way for me to put a boat where it's not going to die if my opponent goes first. Because it, like most of the time, if you use it for like for me personally speaking, every time I've used it in practice runs or like Alpha Strike, I lose the game because my opponent double turns me, and then it's like, cool, untabled. That was fun.
So, I can relate to that experience. Yeah, that definitely happens. You can't be double turned. You can't afford it.
You can't do it at scale. It's too punishing. Not enough resources to get points.
Everybody else in the game has a 2+ save, ignoring one rend, and now like a million ward saves. Guess who doesn't? Us.
We got a good question. Wow. Good question in the chat from CJ about battle tactics and start of the hero phase abilities. The way I'm interpreting it, if you have a start of a hero phase ability and the battle tactic says pick this at the start of the hero phase, you can do anything you want in your turn. And I have used that very strategically in my favor, because what they really should have done is had a new start of the hero phase where you pick your battle tactic. Like, you should have to pick your battle tactic before you do anything else. But if you have started the hero phase abilities, go nuts.
Well, it's come on, Matthew. Give people agency in making decisions. Like, it's actually quite important to say I'm gonna do heroic actions first before I do battle tactics, or vice versa. Like, just or you do battle tactics to bait out a heroic action. You can definitely do that as an option as well.
CJ does make a good point that they're not abilities, so you can time abilities normally. I guess the timing really applies to everything though. We don't have anything to tell us how to time things that aren't abilities. So I mean, it's the only timing rulings we have is for abilities. So you have to assume it works for everything else, I guess.
I agree that if it's your turn, it's your choice.
Yeah. The important thing is don't, when it's your opponent's turn, don't get carried away and start saying, right, I want to do my heroic action and pick what it is. Make sure you wait until you know what your opponent's doing for their battle tactic and stuff. Because I mean, you're meant to, first of all, and of course, if they pick, slay the warlord, then of course, then you want to do best day ever on your general. Okay, so what other FAQ things we had? I put them in like order of importance. We started with the ones that were important.
It works. It's finally legal after going on 2 years. Barrack Throwing is finally legal.
No,
It was legal before.
a
I'm
month.
just kidding.
It was legal. Then they made it a bit weird. The same with the cities and Tempest Eye and so on. And now they just, we missed that part in the text.
Yeah, they've done the
And
same thing with Tempest Eye.
Awesome.
So KO
Great.
in
Fantastic.
Tempest
Even
Eye,
better
the
now.
city's keyword.
I always used to mess with people with that their Barrack Throwing allies were actually allies. So taking like a huge block of Hearthguard Berserkers was always like over their allies cap. I used to trigger so many people on Facebook with that.
Oh my God, Matthew, let it go.
The one thing they've still not made very clear is whether you can reinforce, like coalition units out of battle line more than once.
If they are generic battle line, I'm not sure.
I mean, I feel they don't lose their battlefield role of being battle line. They just don't count toward your minimum or your max. So, like,
they don't count as the number. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the question. Can I only reinforce the ones like that make up my list, as in terms of requirements?
Just as battle line,
or because they still count towards like objectives and stuff.
Exactly.
You can reinforce coalition battle line units. It's just because you can reinforce allied units at least once. Like there's no I don't think there's
It's whether you can do them twice.
It's whether you can do it twice.
Can you do 15 Hearthguard or an E10? Well, you couldn't do 15 because they're not battle line in your army. No, but you could do 30 Volkites if you want to.
So I think you probably can. It would have been nice if they clarified that. Sean says, did they count for hold the line? That's the same question. I'd just say that.
Yes, because they count.
They should do.
Like
they're starting on the
for example, or Iron Breakers or Longbeards.
Is the Barrack Throwing version we can still make a non KO model general, right?
No, it specifically says they cannot be the general.
Coalition units cannot be general.
No, that's not actually true because it's in each fact. Like it's completely like army specific. It's not a universal thing.
In Fring it specifically says this unit cannot be your general.
Good.
Sad face.
It's kind of frustrating.
But now they can be KO can be generals again in Tempest Eye.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which for a brief time now they couldn't because they lost the city's keyword.
Yoo-hoo. They can get all the cool abilities again.
Yeah, that's fun. That's great. Yeah, they cleared all that stuff.
Okay, so this one is probably the one I think has the biggest impact for KO. Because this says, if I use the fly high ability to disengage with a unit, can that unit still shoot or charge later in the same turn? And it says it can still shoot as per the disengage ability, but it cannot charge. So this actually goes...
No, that's interesting. Because the question is asking, if I use the fly high ability to do the disengage ability, which are two different abilities.
Yes.
Well, it's because they put those damn parentheses right after fly high, and it's screwed up so much, just the little parentheses.
You could always fly high or disengage and still shoot. That was never an issue.
Well, this implies you can't now. So
now it implies if I use the fly high to teleport out of combat, like a retreat, which isn't a retreat, I cannot charge.
But you can still shoot.
But they can still shoot.
Or if they're a flying unit, though, you wouldn't be able to disengage, so therefore you can't fly high out of combat and shoot if you're in combat with a flying unit, which is huge.
Wait a minute. If I use the fly high ability to disengage with a unit that can still shoot or charge, can that
unit still shoot or charge?
It can still shoot as per the disengage ability, but it cannot charge. Well, yeah, because shit, yeah, that sucks.
And you can't disengage if the enemy is flying.
Well, it looks like I am unleashing hell on those 2 units of Aether Wings. I don't know what them still in combat. Yeah. Well, and then
one and last word the other. Yeah.
And now you see why the Admiral as a general is important, because you can take the extra article for the once per game of retreat, choose, and charge. And why I brought the homebrew Skyport. It's literally for that mechanic alone. It's just like, I don't want to be, the Ironclad doesn't want to be stuck for a unit that has a fly keyword. Like that's like bottom line trade-off.
Yeah.
That's how I always understood 3.0 to work. Like when when they made that fact change, like people were calling me crazy, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work.
Well, the thing is, they've got 2 different FAQs that basically contradict each other. Because there's one FAQ that says if you do something instead of a normal move, it doesn't count as having doing a normal move. And this one implies that if you do something instead of a retreat, it does count as retreating. So the 2 different things just don't work.
Yeah, inconsistency.
The whole, like when they wrote this book, they started digging a hole and they're not getting out of it. With each new rule, it's like, but then in KO, we have this weird interaction that the garrison is flying and kind of go over a bridge and inside another garrison. And then what happens if we disengage but fly high, but can we hitch into the garrison? I don't know.
I miss garrisoning Seraphon pyramids. That was fun.
Have you tried garrisoning at Shrine Lumineth?
One of these editions, they'll actually figure out how they want this army to function.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think for now, there's a lot of things that they haven't cleared up, of which I thought they would. For example, Navigator Ether Storm stacking. I expected it to be like you can only be effective once. They didn't touch it. And the reason why is they're just doing hot fixes now, and they say, well, in 12 months, whatever, 9 months, you'll have a new book. Who cares?
9 months to them is nothing. 9 months to them is nothing.
We already written half of it, so like for now, same with Soulblight. Like for 2 months, just play with it. With
they're thinking investor meeting to investor meeting.
Just do it.
We had that for over a year working. I don't see why they would FAQ that. Like there's a core rule FAQ that supports it.
Either they're just catching up with the FAQ questions for KO now, like the ones we sent in Christmas 19. I don't know. Like the pile must be huge.
Hold up. Important question: is the emergency vent plate still fact? That thing survived so many facts.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't checked, but I assume it's still there.
I haven't checked, but I'm at minus 300 now.
I think it's still fact. I just
that's so good.
Yeah. Speaking of things that keep getting FAQ'd, Marathi got a -2 rend back.
Yeah.
So the yo-yo is currently down at the moment, but that might go back up again.
That thing switches on and off like every 6 months.
Almost as much as the War Scroll for the Sylvaneth Wildwoods. Almost.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's not good. Sylvaneth can't teleport using that thing anymore.
That's right.
I mean, it's just an oversight. They'll correct it. Pretty sure.
There's a question in the chat about vent plates. Don't worry, it's just a joke. There's nothing's changed with vent plates.
There was a problem that there was no
phase, and that's it.
There was a problem that you did it in the shooting phase, but it didn't say when it stopped.
Yeah.
So was it until the end of the game that you were -1 to be
until the end of the tournament?
Until the end of the tournament, or did you activate each game anew, adding on to it? And there was a joke going on that everyone knew it was a shooting phase, but
you have to have
just come into the tournament
on your arm.
Just come into the tournament, put your boat on the table, go. Look, they were like 2 years ago. I used vent plates and it's still active, so just go with it. Just go with it.
He's not track anymore, but he used it 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, that's fine.
Did we skip over the Barrack Mornar FAQ, Lee?
Was there one?
There's a Barrack Mornar FAQ?
Yeah, you can't run after using opportunistic privateer because there was a
shut
loophole.
up! Yeah, you can.
No, you can't. They FAQ'd it.
Is that actually in there?
Yeah,
Is it in there?
Did they?
Yes, they specified
They
it was in
put
the
in
errata.
all the moves instead of just normal.
Yeah,
moves
they
now.
in the errata they added run, so you can't move, disembark, run after using opportunistic privateer.
Did they actually?
Yes, they did.
Oh wow!
Unless I just went into a fever
obvious.
dream.
Yes, they have. I missed it because it's just that one word in pink that I missed.
Exactly. So you can't use your pregame redeploy and then take first turn and then run and shoot. Yeah, because that was so dumb.
That was Oh no! Okay, there goes my entire video with Coach. Shit. Oh no!
Don't worry, Alex. I did a video here in Germany with some people, but it hasn't come out yet because they're still editing.
Yeah.
It's all for naught. Like everything's because it takes like 1.5 weeks to put it out. Now it's like
fly high out of combat and shoot everything. It's great.
yeah, just fly high and but you can still run and shoot. Yeah, oh, great trick. Oops.
I spent like an hour talking about how to redeploy with Morna on the gun and stuff. And
Yeah. I did
Womp,
it.
womp.
Oh well, let's scrap that.
Oh dear.
Sorry,
Well-
Coach.
Matt, you earned your place on the show with that because I'd missed that. So
Yeah,
these are the only ones I've
there you
took
go.
from the rest of the FAQs. There's loads of other stuff like ward saves. We mentioned it already. They're broken. Hopefully they fix them.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Bodyguard saves are now also ward saves. So that means if you have an admiral, you can't give him, say, Amulet of Destiny and get the 5+ from that and from having, say, a unit of Arcanauts next to him.
But that's
So
because there's a difference if a thing happens when you allocate or after allocating a wound or mortal wound. Because that was
For
always
ward saves,
the difficulty with fire saves with Auric Hearthguard, because theirs have or like they say they even mention here the Sora's Guard, because for Krog he could with the old Krog War Scroll he could shrug the wound, or he had to shrug the wound first, and then when allocated to him he had this 4+ fuel ping. So it was that double that allowed them to double it if the wording was before and after, or when and after.
Yeah. Or each time and after.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure it will be cleared up within the next 7 weeks,
Yeah.
or however long it takes them to fix it.
Yeah, or maybe Tuesday if we're lucky.
7 years.
Nah,
Maybe.
not
The web team needs to get it submitted to all the translations first, so we're gonna wait for at least a month before we get new.
Yeah, maybe.
Cool.
So
Go Gadget Frost Lords.
I mean,
So,
other
yeah,
highlights.
expect TOs to have their own FAQ. Like
Absolutely.
a homebrew FAQ.
I guess the other highlights are Pink's got a new war scroll. Pink horrors.
Yes.
Or magenta
Yeah.
horrors,
Horrors.
maybe we should call them, which is a reference to the chat. The chat one. Okay, let's.
They got a
let's-
big new war scroll.
They got a big
Yeah.
change. Most important for us, you cannot battle shock them off anymore.
But they
Because when
can't
they die-
bring more pinks back, which is nice.
Yeah, but
there are some
the thing is-
implications for KO actually with that change.
Yeah, you can't shoot them
Because-
off and rally them back because they're not slain, but you don't cause battle shock, which was one way to deal
Only
with big
Brimstone.
blocks of.
Only Brimstone. Brimstones you can still rally back, but they're probably you're most likely above unit size, so you can't. Starting unit
Yeah,
max
I mean,
unit size.
Brimstones.
And
Those
Brimstones
you
can
shoot.
right, but Brimstones count for battle shock, right? So if you basically do kill a bunch of pinks, and you
Yeah,
kill
but all the
Brimstones,
pinks and blues that you killed before you arrive
Right,
at
don't count.
Brimstones, they don't count.
Yeah.
Like the 20 or the 30
Yep.
that would count, and then with the 10 bravery.
One of the
You've got
one of the things they didn't actually clarify is how you resolve wound allocation process with 3.0 and how you do the split again. That is like one of the most frustrating part. Like, do you like as soon as you kill a pink, the next 2 wounds on your wound pool, do you allocate to the blues, or can you allocate it freely? Like, they're actually quite unclear how you, because that in that process, because they're not slain, like they're immediately spawn. Like, can you allocate those wounds directly? Like, they just need they did a good job. They just need to do a better job on that one.
I think in the war scroll it actually says before allocating the next wound, you need to replace the model or like put it in the blues, and then you
but in
continue
3.0
allocating another wound.
Right, but then as soon as you replace them, can you allocate those to the blues?
Yeah, sure, why not? You can
I mean,
allocate
that's-
whoever you want in the unit.
Right, which is actually a huge problem because it means you can always leave one pink with a banner alive, so your entire army unit has always a +1 save. Because you can keep before you could remove all the pinks first and remove all the instruments, but now you actually have to go through each individual. If they choose so, they can remove a pink and then 2 blues and 4 brimstones. Right,
Yeah, but what
at a
does the
time.
one banner do now? It just gives them a
+1 save.
Save.
The musician +1 save. Banner is fate points. It's pretty good,
Oh,
actually.
actually, the fate points is really nice for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I always
really
thought
nice.
the one the one bringing back units was more potent on the standard demon, standard bearer thing. Roll a 1 on battle.
They ignore battle
Yeah.
shock now on the command ability. And
They-
automatically.
They pretty much removed they removed all ability to bring back dudes. So you're never going to have a pink horror unit that has more than 50 wounds, but you're going to have to shoot through all 50 wounds.
Well, this is actually a really nice segue because there was a comp in the Old Town Throwdown tournament pack that said if you walked up to a unit of 10 pinks and you did 10 wounds and removed
One
all 10
activation.
pinks, they never got to split because they cited the way that wound allocation works in 3.0 where you before anything else happens, you allocate 10 wounds to the unit. And then so if the unit was completely destroyed, they never got to even use split and split again. And so that was one way they tried to sort of streamline the process. I think there's only one guy that brought pinks in the tournament anyway, and he brought a unit of 30. So it didn't really you'd have to walk up and do 30 damage with one profile. So because if you even had like 2 attack profiles and you went on to your second one, then they could split. But if you walked up and did 10 wounds before they could even get a chance to, there was even a pause, then you would have to, they would all be gone. Yeah. That's the way it was in this tournament that Jeremy and I went to.
So it
And
makes
Kyle.
sense. They cleared it up. Yep.
One of the other major change too for your horse is they're no longer wizards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a big
That's a
change.
big one for the whole casting shenanigan list.
Yeah.
Generate, I don't know how many fate points.
Mhm.
Wow.
I mean, now they just generate a fate point on a free plus. Same thing, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to say, I was like, why isn't Kyle here? Because he actually played KO at this tournament with Jeremy, but I forgot. It's his birthday. So happy birthday. A big Aethercast birthday to Kyle.
Happy birthday, Kyle.
Is it
Yeah, I
actually
know
today?
Happy birthday.
Yeah. That's why he couldn't be here today.
Okay.
Oh, man.
For
I think it's
he's a
this
jolly good
weekend.
Okay,
Never
well,
was.
it's his birthday
Never-
weekend.
If it's his birthday, I
I
hope
don't
he's
know.
not watching
I didn't know if
this.
it's actually today.
Doing it on something else.
Yeah, the last thing he wants to do is watch me judge him for not beating me in the KO at the event. I was just like, I kept like walking up to his table and be like, "Are you gonna win this game? 'Cause you gotta catch up."
But nobody in the world wants to hear me sing, so we're not doing that. Right, so I mean, is there anything else from the FAQs anyone wants to mention before we move on to actually?
Well, there was
what we
plenty of
meant to on the
stuff,
show?
but I think
Yeah, we covered most of the stuff
People-
that's relative to
people
KO. So.
heard about it.
Mhm. Okay.
There was the thing with
me-
the objectives being wholly within or not wholly within your territory.
Oh god, that
The
one
discussion
sucked.
discussion
one
we
sucked.
had Lee in the chat like 2 days earlier. That, is it wholly within or not? And the ones
Yeah.
being removed.
It-
and- yeah.
It's neither. Neither.
So wait, so the objectives in the center of the board aren't? Do they count? So do they count for the battle tactic or not? Do we know that yet?
Depends where your territory is on that battle plan.
Yeah. They're neither
Well, if
wholly
we-
within,
if
If
neither
they're on the
within.
line, they're not wholly within, which was the intent from the start.
Yes.
But people were arguing, oh, but mathematically they're inside and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Well,
Mathematically,
not.
you're an idiot, okay?
Wait,
Yeah.
I thought they answered that question to say it was like preface is like, are they within or wholly within? They're like, no. That was like the answer. It was like that was the question. It's like, are they within or wholly within? They're like, no. So what are they?
But the same thing, they've done the same thing there that they've done with other things because they've basically answered the same question in another FAQ, but for a slightly different purpose. And it basically says that it does that mathematical thing does work for that FAQ. So if you come on the board like wholly within 6 inches and there's a objective 12 inches away, you can have one model on the objective
Yes.
technically, according to the
Yeah,
FAQ.
it's
So,
when Games Workshop decided that they have the theoretical degree into quantum physics. You can be in 2 places at once.
But they only have that. They only have
Schrodinger's
that
objective.
Yeah, in that situation, but not for the other situation. Like, again, they're being inconsistent, which is nice. But okay, let's move on and actually talk about what we meant to be talking about because we've been talking for nearly an hour. So, whoops, Jeremy, this is your list. We've already talked about it twice, technically, on the show. because we had it
Hope
on.
you had nothing good to say.
We had good things to say. We had it at the very end of a show and couldn't do it justice, so then we had to do a whole new show to talk about the lists at Old Town Throwdown and other tournaments because we were really interested by all the lists. Yours was one of the interesting ones, which is good. So because this goes out as a podcast as well as YouTube, I will quickly just run through it. So your general is a chemist with collector and spell in a bottle, an Arcanite Admiral, and a navigator flare pistol, all in battle regiment. 3 units of 10 Arcanauts, all in battle regiment with 1 of each special weapon. 2 gun haulers, both with drill cannons. 2 frigates, both in Alpha Beast Pack. Gun haulers are in battle regiment as well, of course. And an ironclad with the battle ram and great sky cannon in battle regiment. Warp lightning vortex, and it's a custom skyport. Hold the line, triumph, 2,000 points on the nose, so it doesn't really matter what your triumph choice is. And your allegiance abilities is
Gurge.
Good.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
The annoying thing is, I spotted that the other day and thought, I'll send that before the show.
Classically.
You also asked us to proofread it and make sure there were no spelling errors. And I even said, I was like, "Yep, looks good."
It was a moment of English as a second language. I'm like, did I just spell that wrong my entire life? Is that what happened?
There's at least one typo in the show so far. Mm-hmm. We'll see if there's more. So you had the grudge, which let you reroll 1s against 1 enemy unit. The gold, for getting extra shit over gold, and then there's no trading room with some people for run and retreat and shoot just charge once per game. So 5 ships, that's pretty cool. I think one of the things we said about it was not many bodies. I mean, you proved us wrong. So
and it looks great on the table. Having all those ships just flying around all over the place. It looks really, really cool. It kind of looks how like you want to play KO when you're like, a new player and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have all boats, and then like, Jeremy goes out and goes 5-0.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool list, interesting list. You mentioned you didn't use Alpha Beast Pack much or at all. It was just there to fill up cannons. So, I mean, talk us. What are your thought process in writing this list?
Sure. So as I said, I was planning on playing KO for most of like the next 2 years before COVID for tournaments, and I've been really enjoying playing Barak Urbas. Like that's been like my Skyport is Barak Urbas, and most of the times, as soon as 3.0 came out, I was like, wow, this allegiance like just does not work in 3.0, like with the changes to triumphs and so forth. But I still like the extra gold. Like it still matters most of the time. It's just like it just didn't feel like I could. Losing the reroll saves was so crippling for the army that like it just made it so like I had to basically branch out in how I designed it. So when I came to this list, the only major change from my Barak Urbas list was the fact that I added a navigator, because I used to not have a navigator, but the navigator in 3.0 is pretty much like a godsend in many ways. Just mostly because all of the increased durability across the field means that like you have to keep doubling down on how offensive KO is. And that's really what the list is. It's just doubling down on it's an arms race, right? Everything got more durable, especially against Ren shooting and not mortal wound generation. Well, now after the fact, we'll say that mortal wound generation is also now like, got a little bit more durable. Yeah. So it was in a situation where I was like, how do I keep packing as much punch as possible without losing too much mobility? Because you're right, like there isn't a lot of bodies on this army, but at the end of the day, every game is basically revolved around me removing bodies turn 1 and kind of ignoring the big threats or trying to make the big threats irrelevant based on better movement. And then just focusing on the second half of the game, trying to just win on whittling down and chipping away and using increased mobility to score points, because at least the boats are 2 models for purposes of scoring, which is decent but not great. And honestly, like after practicing so often with Barak Urvas, like I'm sold on drill cannons and gun haulers, like 100%. Like I think in 2 games, my opponents were like, "There's no way in hell this triggers on a 5-up for the mortal wounds." I'm like, "No, I promise you, like this is what drill cannons and gun haulers do." Because like I think there was a couple of games where they did like a combination of both and like 18 mortal wounds over there.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they're basically like they're kind of a throwaway shot. Like you're like, okay, you have a support hero here that I actually like care about removing. Now the question is, how much do I need to dedicate to kill it? Well, let's see what the drill cannon does. So let's see if I roll a 5 or 6. Okay, 3 mortal wounds. All right, not that much to dedicate now. It's a very much that's that approach.
And it's such long range as well that you don't even have to go near the thing to do it.
Yeah.
For those little heroes, it's just like.
Jeremy,
Just
quite a
can't spin it
controversial pick. Quite a controversial pick with the Warp Lightning Vortex. What was your thought process there?
It's the highest undispel spell. That's literally it. It's the high.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really care for the movement impact or like the mortal wound. I wanted it to be so that people would constantly have to be in a situation where do I trade a cast for a dispel situation? And then since he's such a high dispel value, it's actually really frustrating to unbind. Most smart players would say, "Screw it, I'm not even going to bother." But I had some players who like kept trying to unbind the thing because it was positioned in a way where it just kept like hitting them every turn.
Zap, zap, zap.
And there's on my last round, like I didn't even use it until turn 4 because it just like rarely does it matters. It doesn't matter early in the game. I felt like when you're in an all boat army, your mobility to just get across the table doesn't really matter so much as like you're trying. Like the only one game I would say it mattered the most was when I played against I think it was somebody with like a Vangorian Lord, or it just made him so you couldn't pass his screen. So it allowed me to just not care about that Vangorian Lord for a turn.
Yeah.
And like that's what it's for. But in the Sylvaneth matchup, they did I've never seen them roll so hot in my life. I think they did like 22 mortal wounds against the Sylvaneth player because they just kept rolling 6s for both activations that they triggered. And it was just kind of like, oh my god. And then since there were like these big, like durable, like ignore Ren characteristic models, basically in a sense, like I was like, this is like, I'm sorry, I've never seen them roll that. I think I like basically did like 8 mortal wounds to Drika with like that, and I was the only model who was like I wanted to kill that turn, and add insult to injury, the drill cannon killed it just because they rolled a 5. Okay, there's 3 mortal wounds. So no, it's just there to be in a nuisance. Like, it's just what it's meant to be. That's it. It doesn't really. If it was 40 points cheaper and did no mortal wounds, I would still take it.
Yeah,
I would still take it.
Did you ever find yourself wanting the last word rather than the battle ram?
Oh God, no! I rarely unleash hell. Like I rarely unleash hell because most of the time I use redeploy. You can't do both. Like, so I would usually use redeploy. Like I'd rather be out of a charge range than take a gamble of rolling dice. Especially when the things are charging you are usually things like Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragons. Like you're not gonna kill that with your boat, and then most of the time it'll be striking at top bracket because it can just spend the 1 CP at the start of the combat phase to be top bracket. So,
true.
And once again, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like the problem with KO is the lack of mortal wound. Like there's just not enough mortal wound generation. As you can tell, like I went for like as much mortal wound generation as I can pack into that army. So like that was my gimmick, was mortal wound generation.
And then my only other question was just, did you ever kind of? I know we talked about how great the Admiral is, and I don't really even know what. Did you ever find yourself throughout the course of the game wishing you had a second navigator, or thinking to yourself, God, I really wish I just had an extra roll or to quarter move big flying units movement?
Oh hell no! The Admiral does so much work. Ignore the battle shock aura, the extra command ability to give 2 boats, 1+1 hit, 1 reroll once to hit. Like it's just so. He's fundamentally important. And since I take the RAM for the mortal wound generation, I have to actually charge things. And guess what the Admiral is really good at doing? Is killing monsters himself. Like he's not great, but he's pretty good for KO, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
KO go.
Yeah, that's KO good, effectively. The Admiral was. I just love like the amount. Like if I had the meme of the cat watching the stock price go up, like that'd be the Admiral for 2.0 or 3.0. For me, it's just like you went from a useless model to an amazing model, like in like one edition change. So.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. I mean, first of all, you mentioned just then about being able to buff 2 ships. So I mean, are you typically putting reroll 1s on the Ironclad and then +1 to hit on one of the frigates? Or
Yep, basically. Yeah. The hard part is the range of command abilities since everything's in an Ironclad. So it's hard to like. There was many occasions where I wish where I had like maybe the Endrin Master and Dirigible Suit following the frigate when it would split away after like your opponent would, most games would go. I would make my opponent go first because that was my goal, and they would just come barreling charging in, and on turn 2 I would send like a frigate behind the line with maybe a gun hauler to just basically say, well, you're gonna have to deal with these because they're gonna start taking points and score points, and then there's this kind of like fear in their eye because they realize like they've overcommitted. Usually that's how I went in the game. And for me personally, I wish I had the ability to have another hero that would float, like be able to split away with the rest of the army. I really thought about squeezing in the collapsible compartment in one of the gun haulers so I can put one of the heroes with the gun hauler. But it's so hard to get like extra. You can't really, as of Zelfin, you can't get extra mount traits anymore. Like that's gone. So. Because they never bothered facking the book to say that 4 battalions also or you could technically take another enhancement to unlock a mount trait, but I'm actually not sure the Endrin works count as mount traits. I don't think they are.
Well, they're like special enhancements.
Unique enhancements.
Oh, unique enhancements.
So they would fall under that.
You'd be doing it instead of an artifact. So
right.
But the artifacts in this book are just so insanely good that you would never. I mean, unless you had a specific reason to do so.
What are you talking about? There's only 2 good artifacts in the entire KO book. That's not like faction specific.
Hard to disagree.
For me, there are only 2 of them.
Bomblets. Bomblets can be godly.
No, the flare
you
pistol
can also roll with the
awesome.
first roll.
The Voidstone. I like the Voidstone orb. Yeah, for that automatic dispel, like just to stop the Techless puts those mirrors out, and you just go no mirrors. You do your little aura mortal wound thing back there. Thank you very much.
It's just such a thing. Like you stop the mirrors, you stop the bridge, you stop whatever.
Yeah, but those are also a point trade off. You can also just take a Knight Incantor. Those are like you're trading. You're making a selective choice to say, "I'm going to take an artifact slot instead of spending 140 points on something."
Knight Incantor is so good in Barrack Mornar.
Yeah, the other thing.
Sorry, go for it.
The other thing is with a navigator now is you can, if you want to, just spend a gold to re-roll that unbind roll as well, which is, 2 bites to the apple there. It's not obviously guaranteed, but it helps. That's that one important spell.
For me, outside of the Barrack Mornar artifact, like the flare pistol and the spell in the bottle are like the 2.
Yeah, they're insanely good. So especially now in 3.0, the flare pistol, your whole army re-rolls all hits. Like, give me a break. That's so insanely good.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know with your list's got 3 drops. Were you able to mostly control going first, second with 3 drops?
Yeah, the only game I didn't get was round 2, and my opponent had a 1-drop army.
I had 7 drops, and I think all but one game I got to control who was going first.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's
not putting a lot of stock into it.
People want the Warlord Battalion or the Commandant to rush
exactly.
or to access the second artifact. So already you're minimum 4 drops.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, why should I invest into the battle regiment? Let's take a Hunters of the Hardens or whatever, and then boom, you're 10 drops. It's either you go 1 or 2 drops or you go 10.
Yeah, to Max's point, if you can target yourself to be less than 4 drops, you're beating most armies. Basically.
I'd say probably 4 out of 5 games unless somebody is dedicating to an Alpha Strike list, which don't seem that common.
Or is
most armies, well, even Sons of Behemoth right now with the new change to White Dwarf be 4 drop most of the time, right? So
Yeah, 3 drops. Yeah, because they want 1 extra artifact, but then the other one is a double drop. Yeah.
The one thing I will say, the 1-drop list I've seen in my local meta are basically Techless and Sentinels or Archon.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Because they both want to start. They want to control because they want to put the buffs up, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
1-drop Techless and Sentinels is what I've been seeing around here, and that's a not an insignificant list. Like that thing will really hurt you. With the amount of mortal wounds it puts out.
The one thing that matters in that matchup when I'm thinking about is, hey, I need to force him to teleport the Sentinels to make them effective, or speed a ish the Sentinels to be effective, and then also try to stop Limbiant Light. Like Limbiant Light is the only thing that kills a boat straight up. Like if they don't have Limbiant Light, like rarely does a 30-man Sentinel unit kill a boat, unless it's like a gun hauler, especially with the 6-up shrug saves. So it's and most of the players here that play the 1-drop Techless list know that playing against me, that's you don't kill the boats, you just kill the heroes. That's what matters. So like most of the time, that's like how the game's playing.
So where are you using your gold mostly? I assume it's like if you only get 1, it's going on the Ironclad.
First one goes to the Ironclad. Second, sorry.
In terms of spending it, like, are you spending all your gold, or are you spending it all on the ships, and then you at the end of the game you've got it left on stuff? But
I usually use the Ether Gold starting turn 2 on the Ironclad, because I never set myself up for an Alpha Strike anyway, and most of the first turn is trying to like if I'm in a position to just hit a flank really hard, like just play the knife flank and just hammer down 1, that might use it on the Ironclad. But rarely do I use it on turn 1. The gold I use on most of the time is the Ether Chemist. If I get more than the Ether Chemist, just for the real 1s to win on the boat, is like usually pretty important for the Ironclad, more than the +1 to movement. Like it ends up like it's really like if I get 2 gold, I might use the gold on the Ironclad and this extra gold I got on the Ether Chemist, extra gold on both of them. So just on turn 1, just to be basically because you only need 2 solid rounds of shooting of the Ironclad to just say, all right, well, if I can't climb myself out of like whatever shithole I'm in with 2 rounds of that happening on Ironclad, this is not a good game for me. I mean, no amount of shooting is going to solve my problems. That's usually how it goes. For my experience, at least, that's been that. So first gold Ironclad, second gold Chemist, last gold Navigator. Like, if I get 3, that's where I put it.
Okay, that's interesting. You put it on the heroes.
Do you find the frigates do put out enough firepower? Like, are you getting your money's worth out of those frigates?
Yeah, because I don't target big things. I only kill like things that are on the board and scoring. So like most of the one of the big things I think that was surprising a lot of my opponents is that like I wasn't actually my last matchup was against Matthew Jones with Avangori, and he had 2 Vampire Lord Zombie Dragons and Manfred, and I spent the first turn just killing all the skeletons off the table and setting up for a potential Unleash Hell if he charges me with great cards, and that was it. Like I did not care about the dragons. He made me care about a dragon eventually, but the problem is with the Navigator slowing 1 down and positioning on the peripheries, the other one was basically kind of like by himself at that point, and then on the next turn I was like, cool, well I don't get to ignore this guy anymore, so I'm going to dedicate all my resources to just killing him that turn with very little penalty in that regard. But most of the time, like the way I view KO now is just like you have to kill all the small chaff units so you can have a chance of scoring on the second half of the game, because the first half of the game is so hard to score with KO. It's so hard on timer.
Yeah, you just score your own objectives and do some battle tactics.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's the same way to deal with, the Archeo and Zinch. Let's just kill everything else. Kill the Acolytes or whatever he has, the Blues, whatever. Kill the Sorcerer Lord. And then if it's and then Kairos you can kill. He's not too hard to kill. And then it's just, Archeon.
Oh yeah.
He's one model. You slow him down or you friend charges, whatever. He's one model. He's gonna kill stuff.
It's a race against the clock, right? Because you're basically trying to say, okay, Archeon's going to kill whatever he fights. Can I just delay him as long as possible while removing pieces?
Yeah. How would you tackle something that doesn't have small stuff, like 4 Gargants?
Yeah, so I was surprised.
Basically
I was
a
surprised.
DPS check against Gargant.
Yeah.
Like how quickly can you kill a Gargant?
Yeah, and this comes into why I like having the Deal Breaker Ram and the Admiral. Once again, is I feel like in most games I have to just dedicate everything one Gargant at a time, and then I'm probably not going to kill it in shooting. I'm going to finish it off probably in combination of all the mortar wound triggers from the bombs and the combat activation from the Ironclad with the Admiral, and that's like, and I think the math works out exactly like where I can take down a Gargant, and once they're down to 3 Gargants. Then you're in a kind of, depending on what the mission is, you're in kind of like, okay, you might not be in a winning position, but you're in a competing position. Yep. Because the odds are the other Gargants are going to kill something. Like they're going to be able to get back and like kill something smart. And then at that point, you're just playing this weird trade-off game where you're, well, you can't be everywhere now because you only have 3 models. So I'm going to try to keep being everywhere and also whittle down your Gargants as the time goes on. And eventually, you're going to be down to only 2 Gargants, and I'm probably going to be able to take primary. And that's how the game plays for me mentally. You kill one, and then you just focus on just whittling another one over the rest of the game. That's it.
Okay. Obviously, we didn't really mention it before, but you got the flare pistol, which is obviously really powerful and really good with those drill cannons as well, because 5s and then getting a chance to get that twice is really good. When are you typically using that? Are you saving it or using it early? Okay.
Turn 3. I rarely use
the most important round of the game, right?
Yeah. I rarely ever use it first, which is actually kind of a it's been kind of this weird thing where like I have to like I wish I had it tattooed on my hand, like don't use a flare pistol no matter what you think on the first turn. Because most of the time the Admiral, you already have enough either rerolls or bonuses to hit where the grudge and everything, like the flare pistol is not really like a need in the first turn. Like I think you're overcommitting resources if you use it on the first turn most of the time. And like sorry.
I was going to say, especially if you're shooting small stuff and chaff and battling units.
Yeah, it bears the problem to keep your navigator alive for 3 turns.
Yeah.
Which, with casting, with sentinels, with whatever, mortal wound, shooting, Kairos, 6 mortal wound spell thingy. It's not,
I just write them off.
easy. Yeah.
If I play against Sentinelists, I just write them off. Like it's like, okay, how do I win about the navigator? It's like that's what it comes down to. There's almost no way like the Sentinel is going to matter that much in the game because he's going to underdrop me and he's going to kill him first round, and it's like like that's why you have Grudge, right? That's why you have Grudge. That's why you have the Admiral. The Admiral's pretty tanky because of the bodyguard mechanic. So like most of the time you'll be able to at least get one of your rerolls through, right? Just not the flame pistol.
Yeah. How are you using your Arcanauts? Are they all in the ships or are they screening or what's their job?
All in ships only because my strategy is to kill Chaff, and then eventually he'll swing back with a monster into my boat. And I always protect my boats where I don't get paralyzed, like when I explode, where like guys die from the explosion, instead of just a normal roll. So I can be on an objective, and then when the boat dies, I can take the objective back from that monster. That's the only strategy I have. Arcanauts in there. It's just to make sure I at least have 6 models on the objective to his 5, like consistently. That's the only thing that matters. That's why I never deploy them on the table. Like they're just basically like, yeah, you can kill this boat, but if you do kill this boat, you're probably gonna lose the objective or not get it. So like that's how I approach it.
Okay, interesting.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously with the way Old Town Throwdown ruled getting out the boats, they did do the thing where you just can't move for a turn if you want to get them out. So yeah, just let them die, let the boat die, and then you can get them out. That works.
Yeah. I mean, I just imagine most events are going to rule it the same way, at least where I play, because it's kind of like they made Games Workshop made an active decision to make garrisons kind of shitty for KO in 3.0. So I was just going to assume like, the best foot KO dwarf is one that just got out of a boat. That's from dying, like parachuted out. That's the only one that matters.
Okay. One last question before we, unless other people got questions as well, but with your boats, like have you got any special ways that you're positioning them like together, or are they all spreading out? I know when we spoke to Phil in the past that you used lots of ships. He was doing like this paw print thing with the ironclad in the middle and then like gun haulers around it. Are you doing anything like that? Are you spreading them all out, or what are you doing?
So, in terms of deployment, like I try to spread out unless it's a very specific matchup where they have another shooting army. So I just try to sit out of range, and sometimes you're forced to castle out to get out of range. But most of the time, it's just about spreading out, touching objectives as far as possible. But then as soon as like the game actually starts and I'm moving around, I'm basically trying to create pockets with the gun haulers and the frigates and the ironclads to just protect the guys inside in case when the boat if the boat dies, they can actually disembark and not like lose additional models, right? Or just not being able to disembark at all. And that's kind of like the way I approach it. And also it works because if people charge you, they're going to have potentially having to deal with multiple bomb drops. Like I played a lot of Soulblights over the weekend. There was a lot of Graveguards, and let me tell you, they really don't like getting bomb dropped. Like they really don't like it before they get to swing. So, like just creating lines to just prevent people from surrounding the transport boats is the only thing that matters. There is no strategy outside of like just making sure I can disembark if I die. That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeremy from anyone before we move on to some games? Tell us a no.
No.
The silence is a no.
No, I want to hear. I really want to hear about the matchups. I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I want to see what happened.
Okay, so bear with me because I put things in the wrong order when I added the FAQ.
Oh, you're
so, sorry.
Fast forward.
Yeah.
You guys have 40 minutes before I'm totally drunk, so just giving you a heads up.
Okay. Game 5 will be fun. Game 5 will be fun. Okay, first game was against Skaven. I'm not sure if I can be able to read all this out, but he had
Wow, that's a lot.
stuff. A lot of stuff. He had 6 giant rats, 3 storm friends or storm friends. What
I'm just gonna say that this game doesn't matter because he was a brand new player to the game. Like this is his first major event, and like it was just me teaching him what to do against KO most of the game.
Okay,
he's a local guy. I played him like I think a week or two before the event, and I was the same way. Like I was, he actually did really well against me, but I was kind of just showing him like sort of like the strategies that you're going to want to use when you're playing competitively. Really nice dude. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jeremy.
No, I was going to say like the same echo. He had the basics down very well. I'm looking forward to like seeing how he performs later at tournaments.
So you're saying I'm a good teacher. So you're saying I'm a good teacher. That's what I heard.
Man, if you want to pat yourself on the back. The only highlight in that game is that I dropped a Stormfield unit down to 1, and then he rallied him, and they got 2 back. That was like the biggest highlight.
I mean,
I was happy for him too.
The highlight for me looking at the list is he's got Warp Lightning Vortex as well. So if you made like a star of like Warp Lightning Vortex that
shown in the middle.
We actually ended. I don't think I used mine. Because it was like he placed it in a way where his was like penalizing him more than mine. I was like, okay, because once again he was trying to use it to like protect a flank, and it was actually sitting on an objective that he was trying to actively get, and I'm like, you're gonna hurt yourself more than me. Like, okay. But once again, like newer player, right? Like I don't realize this until turn 3 when he tells me like this is like his first event or something. I'm like, oh my god, well I need to play very differently now.
This was on First Blood. So I mean, what did you think of First Blood for KO?
I actually don't mind this mission too much because it lets you basically focus on 2 objectives, and usually the peripheral ones are the ideal situation because you can have. There's so many vectors of entry for the second half of the game where it makes it hard for opponents to dedicate any resources to box you in. So I really like that mission for KO most of the times.
Yeah, I think this one, and then there's another diagonal one, and because they're both diagonal with the objectives in the middle, they both have the same sort of properties where it makes it easy for you to fly high somewhere and be a nuisance.
I have a question. Lee.
Yep.
Sorry, because I'm not too familiar with the new.
Oh, yeah, this might be wrong.
Plans
'Cause I
here,
think-
yeah. The one on the opponent's territory. Which one is on the opponent's territory?
No,
Like,
this
either
is,
they all are or none are. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is something I've got to. This was wrong when we did our battle plan show, and I
And
think
you
I've got
haven't-
to change it before this show.
Okay.
Yeah, so just ignore the scoring.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, for this one, it's pretty straightforward. You get 1 point for controlling 1. You get 1 point for controlling 2. You get another point for controlling more.
Mhm.
This
it's
one's
that
really
automatic.
simple.
Automatically do if you have to. But okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'll give you a context of how that game went, because I think a lot of Skaven players played this weirdly. So he'd set up a gnaw hole basically on his corner and then put all of his Storm Fiends behind there, so they were not even challenging any of the objectives movement wise. So if he chose to not go through a gnaw hole, like, he was not going to get an objective. And the only unit that got an objective on turn 1 was the Storm Vermins and the Giant Rats, which was just like, okay, well, like, the Ironclad's going to kill the Storm Vermins, and that's literally how that game went. And at that point, he was trying to claw his way out of that.
He didn't have like clan rats like on the edge, like pushing.
He did. But he didn't push forward. He just sat in his territory. The only thing he sent forward was right. It's just like, this is like one of those like beginner mistakes where you're not thinking about tempo. You're thinking about like, okay, my Storm Vermis is like my most durable unit. That's my Storm Fiends. So they're gonna go take this point. It's like, it's traditional, like, kind of like, I'm gonna say rookie, but it's unfair to call somebody a rookie. It's just that most players think about like, okay, this is my most durable resource, so I'm gonna use expensive, but they need to think about tempo. Where like, if you dedicate all your resources, I can only kill so many things, right? So like, that's what I thought he was going to do, and I had no idea he was only going to throw the Storm Vermins on the center objective. I was like, well, this is not going to go well for you, and I'm going to explain why after the first turn. And then I got the double turn, and then basically all the clan rats died the second turn. So it was like nothing left to score.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have any questions about this game then, because it sounds fairly straightforward. Let's move on then. Sorry, let's help us catch up from the FAQs tab. So the next game is against Soulblight Gravlords. So hang on.
Yeah, this is a game I should have lost.
I think one of these names is wrong because I've got the same person's name twice as well.
Yeah, that's not Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, high quality.
That's Ramon. Ramon is the person that played round 2.
Okay.
He's also another local. He's also another local player in this Southern California region.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully I got the list right. So Vampire Lord of the Zombie Dragon, Neferata.
Oh, that's right. That's the right list.
Yeah. Gorslav the Gravekeeper. 20 zombies, 2 units of 10 skeletons, 3 units of 10 grave guards, 5 black knights, 2 corpse carts, double battle regiment. So 2 drops.
Wow.
Interesting.
You do see a couple of double battle regiment lists going around. I've seen other people doing it.
It's Soulblight Graveguards is one of the few armies that can probably get away with it because they have Graveguards, and like you really only need 1 or 2 monsters in the army, and then you have Graveguards because Graveguard solves all problems for Soulblight.
Yeah. The one thing I've noticed about Soulblight is they do tend to just have lists of a lot of stuff, like multiple units.
That battle tome is huge. There's a lot of war scrolls in there. It's a great book. It's an interesting list as well. It's a lot of MSU units.
Oh, something that we didn't mention in the FAQs. Soulblight Dragons and Terrorgeist got the single keyword, like, finally. So they're not going to be running around with 3-man units of Terrorgeist anymore.
Oh,
No one ever did.
Luckily, I don't think anyone was actually doing it. But...
No.
That was our meta the last 2 months. I was fighting 3 Terrorgeists every game.
Okay, Australians did it. Okay.
Every time I hear more and more about your country, I just love it. It's just I'm in awe.
Glorious Australian meta.
We've got our own.
I thought you all played Destruction. What's this?
What's
dragon
happening?
Yeah.
Can't think of anything more destruction than a unit of three dragons.
How do you
Just-
even place a unit of 3 dragons? Like insane
You don't.
crazy.
At least it's
Yeah.
not a unit of like 6.
So Jeremy, I have a question because I know, like I said, I know Ramon from the local scene, and he's a very good player, very competitive player. He's he's so this wasn't just like a fortuitous, like another maybe easy second round matchup. Sometimes you get. So I'm curious what he put in the grave. Like, what did he start on the table? All the grave guard in the grave.
Yeah,
That's how
hence
you
the
do it.
name, Grave Guard.
Yeah, that's how you do it. All grave guards in the grave. But I'll give you a context about how, like, if you want to. I was waiting until we moved to the actual mission page. But in terms of like, this was my game to lose. Like, so he makes me go first, right? So Ramon is obviously an experienced player and has an understanding of like, I want to double turn KO. Like, I just need to like. There's not enough shooting KO can do to matter enough where. Like, if I get the double turn, like, I'm probably going to crit, like, on me. And effectively, that's what he did. He basically made me go first, won the initiative roll on turn 2, so got a double turn. But he made one huge tactical mistake, and he forgot. Or then he chose to not retreat a Graveguard unit that blockaded his Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon from being able to charge the Ironclad. So the Vampire Zombie Dragon was such a cluster. So if you look on the map right now, on the bottom objective, if you're looking just straight up and down from the thing, is effectively all of the boats except for the one frigate, which was on where his territory is on the bottom objective, were basically positioned except for one gun hauler around that cluster, right? Like explaining as I'm trying to keep myself windows of disembarkation where he cannot surround me, and I can't, or he just has to face a lot of bombs. In the terms of how the game went. On turn 1, since he made me go first, I removed the zombies, I removed the Black Knights, and all he had left was like the 2 units of skeletons, I believe, and Neferata and the Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon, and like the two chariots, or whatever they're called, the braziers. But on his turn, because I was not able to, I failed the Navigator roll on the Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon. He had like free movement, and on turn 2, after he basically won priority, he set himself up to a charge against the Ironclad and a frigate. But the issue was that all of his Grave Guards made all of their charges, their 9-inch charges, into my army. And so he had to reach. He had this weird, like this very long, this pocket open, but it was all the way in the farthest corner possible. So to make the charge to successfully make it, he had to roll 12. And the thing is, he had just retreated the Grave Guards away. All you needed was like a 6. So he basically gave himself a very long charge and then failed it with the reroll, and then the Ironclad survived. And I was crippled. Like, the Ironclad was crippled. Like, he could not disengage, he could not sky high. But because I played my homebrew Skyport, or if you had a general, an animal general, I basically was able to retreat. And I got a double turn on turn 3, and that's where like the game basically was over. I removed this Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. I removed all of the scoring units in his army. Like, the Grave Guards were dead. The skeletons were dead. Like, I basically, all he had left was Neferata and I think a corpse cart. And he basically was dependent on rolling a 5-up with the Soulblight Gravlords Allegiance to bring back a Graveguard unit every Battle Shock phase to get back on objective to take it away from me. And honestly, I think he only succeeded once the entire rest of the game to steal an objective back. But had he just basically retreated that Graveguard unit, I would have lost the game because he would have killed the Ironclad. Like, it was such an uphill climb at that point. Losing like the Ironclad made such a huge difference for the rest of killing all this.
So he brought one unit of Graveguard out on the first turn, made the charge, and then on the double turn, all three on the first turn.
And he made the charge all 2 of the 3, and on turn 3 he made the charge of the third.
So how can you So is there something that lets him retreat and charge, or are you saying that he would? I'm not.
I think
Go
what you
for
meant
it.
is you had some boats, and then you had Graveguard units in the way, and then he had a dragon. And if he retreated one of these units, or even if it was just one unit, like if you retreat the unit, then the dragon can charge in. But because the units are there, then the only place the dragon can get in combat is over here, like behind,
Gotcha.
which means it needs a bigger charge.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, but that makes complete sense. He boxed you. He was trying to box you in with Graveguard, but in a sense, he boxed his own self out with his big punchy dragon.
And
Gotcha.
that was, and it gave me this weird situation where the warp lightning vortex was like super significant because I was able to like his entire army was like condensed in this like weird pocket, and I'm like, all right, warp lightning vortex, and I just
your dragon can't fly. Yeah.
Dragon can't fly. You're taking more wounds. Like, like that's how I killed all the chaff. Is because literally all of the grave guards and the chaff were like in that condensed spot, and the warp lightning vortex was just chipping away with like the rest. Like, so I got to basically, effectively unleash all broadsides and just finish off all the chaff on my turn.
Nice.
I'm just curious. Do you know what Gorslav's role was in his list? Because there's just one unit of zombies, so.
I mean, it's just because that way he didn't have to depend on the battle shock rule. He can just bring back the 10 zombies after the first one.
Okay.
You know, for 75 points, he can bring back a half a unit of zombies.
But I thought you can just do that with the battle shock roll.
Right. He just gives him the ability. You don't have to depend on the dice roll.
Plus it's nice to have a hero because all these death units, or most of them, don't have a. No, the zombies don't have it either. So yeah.
It's nice because it gives you more aura range for shrug saves, but it's Gorslav was a pain in the ass because he brought back the zombies I think once, and then he brought back them again with battle shock. So
can you bring back the same? So if you have 20 zombies and Gorslav brings back 10, can you use your allegiance ability to bring back the other 10?
I thought not.
I think we played it that way because the allegiance ability says you can't. But that's a command ability that's not in the allegiance. Sorry.
Yeah, if there's the allegiance ability doesn't actually bring back the unit, it's lets you set up a unit like of the same type with like the same size or half the size. Like it's a new unit. So for instance, for Hold the Line, those units don't count the ones they bring back because they're not from the starting army because they're technically a new unit.
Okay.
Interesting.
But it was in a situation where if he lost to 20 zombies and he brought them back with Gorslav, he would bring back 10. And then if he rolled the battle shock, he would also bring back 10.
Yeah.
Because they're not replacement of replacement. It's a very weird, it ended up not mattering in the game at all. But it is something I think that's why you take Gorslav. I was going to guess. I wonder why, effectively. He died on an Ironclad charge. The Ironclad charged him and killed him.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Pasted him up against the side of the hull.
Battle rammed. Ponk.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy. That was a really smart. Sometimes it's not always the moves that you make that win you the game, but sometimes it's recognizing a poor move or a poor decision that your opponent made, and then taking advantage of that. So, well played.
But I mean, I think it's a situation of for most players when they're and this is something I've tried to teach myself to not be greedy, because you're in a situation where it's I made him go first. I got the double turn. I'm just gonna go for all the marbles immediately, and I'm no, you have to teach yourself that it's not the right play. Dice can tell you to f off 90% of the time. You have to play conservatively, even if you have the initiative.
Yeah, and especially if you take a double turn as well, you're basically opening yourself up to be double turned later anyway, as well. Yeah. So, So what's that like? Was that turn 2 or turn 3 that you just mopped up everything pretty much, or mopped up?
Yeah, turn 3, the game was pretty much over. All you had left was Neferata.
So which objective did he remove?
He removed. It didn't matter because he had none.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think he removed this either in the perspective of the game. I think he might have removed the top one, but it didn't matter because he had no objectives.
Right.
The boats were on him.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying he couldn't seem to roll a 5-up for the battle shock. respawning.
Yeah.
Not that he was going to be able necessarily to be on an objective because of body blocking the grave sites, but like it was basically like he had no objectives when he got to remove an objective.
All I was going to say is also this tournament was two weeks ago, so I'm asking you like specific questions, like you played it like 4 days ago, and I realized that it was like 14 days ago. So yeah, but yeah, well, like you said, that just goes to you back to your initial strategy, like you said. A lot of times, a lot of KO players, they're like, okay, how can I win on turn one? What is my path to victory on turn one? Okay, I'm gonna go after his big, like you first day in prison, you go up and you want to punch the biggest thing in the army, right? But like a lot of times, it's just not gonna. It's not gonna work. And you go after the chaff, you go after the little stuff, and they can't score points anymore. All you need are 6 Arcanauts that take an objective.
Matt, are you trying to tell me that KO nickel and dime opponents? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because
I think
I'm pretty sure it's in the fluff. Like nickel and diming is definitely in the fluff.
I think I played KO for a little while, obviously, and I had maybe moderate success, but I think my biggest problem is when I put down an army of Kharadron Overlords on the table, I'm like, how can I win on turn one? How am I winning this game right now? And I think it goes to show you that if you just take it easy and you go after the scoring units and you don't try to go all in, super fast, and you play conservatively, pop your flare pistol on turn one, pop your vortex on round one, go all in, you go after the scoring units, you can do quite well.
I will say, anybody who's played Fire Slayers, moving to KO is kind of an exercise in basically keeping up the same perspective. And the one thing I will say about playing Fire Slayers competitively was that like you're supposed to restrain yourself. Like Fire Slayers are an army that wants to castle up and score objectives. Like that's all they matter. That's all they want. And KO is the opposite in the sense it's an army that doesn't want to castle up and score objective. But the restraint is the one gimmick that I think that's the dwarf. Like if you play any dwarf army in that, it's like restraint is the key. Don't overcommit. It's like a consistent pattern. Like I think that's why I enjoy dwarven armies. I like to not gamble.
The trouble with KO is it gives you the tools to want to overcommit.
Yeah.
Like things like the flare pistol make you think, right, well I can go in and just reroll all hits against something.
You don't like to gamble, which is unlike some of our teammates. And I will say we were at Hera's resort and casino over the weekend for this tournament. So there were times to gamble and there were times not to gamble.
I think on your remark, Matt, it's many people think KO want to go in first turn hard because that's how you almost had to play in AOS 2. Because AOS 2 was basically you won through objectives. KO didn't have the body, so what you need to do is in the first 2 turns, remove your opponent's units so you can actually start scoring in the last 2 or 3 turns. Now, with this new game that we have, that's not the main priority anymore. It is, you can keep up in points with battle tactics and killing monsters and whatever, and then, delete key units round 3, round 4. Whenever, at least that's how I see it. So that's also a change to the edition. But people, they see KO, as you say, and say, oh, he's going to come in. He can, because he has the movement, he'll be in front of my lines. He'll start shooting. He'll alpha me. But that's not, I don't think that's necessary anymore. And I think it's very, very clever what Jeremy was doing here is just remove the scoring bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nickel and diming. That's what I call it. It's nickel and diming. That's how you win. It's you just chisel. You don't take a hammer. You just chisel.
Grab your pickaxe, beardling.
Exactly.
Okay. And then Adam in the chat has checked up the Gorslav stuff for us. So
I saw that. It was a good reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
Cool. I'm not going to read all that though. So you popped up on this. It's too technical. I'm not going to go into it because I'll get it wrong. So let's move on to the next game. So Against the Dirty Elves next.
Oh my gosh! Before you go into this, Jeremy, I believe our teammate Alex played this list the round before you, correct? And then I played him the round after you, the first game on day. So he played 3 Corsairs. He played 3 Corsairs in a row.
And I was the only one to beat him. You guys.
Yeah, you were. I got my ass handed.
We settled who the head Corsair is.
I got my ass handed to me by this list.
What is this even?
What is this?
So
this isn't.
Yeah,
Necklace.
what is this?
Is Helon?
I'm actually super excited to let you guys' take on this because I'm going to tell you right now, this was the best list at the event, like by 100 miles.
Helon is the cloud people.
Yep.
Thing. Okay.
Yeah. So he's got
Vaneri,
Kavalar, the teleporting twins, and the Score Seeker. The Lore Seeker.
Yeah.
2 units of 5
The Score Seeker.
Yeah.
Score Seeker. That's a good one.
10 and 5 Dawn Riders, 10 Wardens, and 20 Sentinels. Some of those units are battle line, some aren't, but I'm not sure which because the Wardens, if you have them battle line, allows you to make
they're all battle line.
The wind charges are battle line in Helon, I believe.
The Wardens allows you to make one other unit battle line. So
so it's only
it could be the one of the Dawn Riders or the Sentinels, and you don't know which.
Yeah.
What's Lambient Light do as a spell? I forget.
Lets you reroll all hit rolls.
Nice.
So fishing for 5s and 6s to get those mortal wounds off.
He's got Hunters of the Heartland, which obviously did nothing against you. Emerald Liveswarm, and flaming weapon, which I think pretty much everyone you played against had, because that's what everyone takes now. And Amulet of Destiny, which is fun. So 20 Sentinels. Probably enough, I'd say. I don't know.
Well, so I don't want to be like a pain in the ass, but there is an extra R in the Vanari Sentinels. And also Orland.
The Vanari Orland Sentinels.
It's not an Aethercast if there aren't typos.
It's so true. It's so true.
Well, who knows how these dirty elves are named?
This is our brand right now.
Yeah.
We need stickers like with Aethercast spelled wrong.
Not like giving like too much foreshadow of the game I went, but like I'll tell you right now, in terms of like this player and the list, it was actually surprisingly well played. And I know on paper it looks like, what the fuck is this? Like, how is this a Lumineth list? But actually,
I'm sure there's a tactic. I just don't understand it.
Well, there's lots of stuff that moves fast. Very fast, and there's a shooter unit that can sit at the back and just target a different thing each turn. And
moves fast is the understatement of the century.
There's a shooting unit sitting next to the shrine with the Kavalar property inside. The Lord Seeker is like in your front lines on some objective being a tick. And Elani and Elafor, they can probably go around pretty autonomously. And the Wind Chargers are setting up the charges for the Dawn Riders. So they're doing the whole, out of free, piling in, piling out, whatever thing.
See that too, Matt?
And then Dawn Riders, they're good on the charge. If they don't charge, they're not good. So that's what they want to do. And the Wardens, they protect the Sentinels. And the Vanari Lord Region, he has the ability to give the it's not flaming weapon.
Power of
the
empowered weapon,
metal weapon thingy. To everyone, so that's a nice fallback. He doesn't need to cast it. Life Swarm just to replenish units, I guess.
Lore Seeker over there is doing his best Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z impersonation with the solar flare. Solar flare.
It's interesting. I'm sure there's some shenanigans in this list that I'm not seeing.
The Sentinels have Total Eclipse. That Total Eclipse is just an annoying spell,
especially in the new edition. Like, I have all these CP. Like, but you need 2 for each ability. Like,
I'm gonna unleash hell. I'm gonna all out defense, and wait, hang on.
Like, I have 3. It's like I can use one ability. I have 3 points.
Yeah.
And this mission was the Vice, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
His mobility must have came in really handy here.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, do you guys want me to tell you how the game went? Like, is this happening?
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. Like, Anthony Krupp is actually like he played that list like to near perfection.
Mhm.
And the worst part is, I'll give you a little bit of a foreshadowing. I almost tabled him on turn 3, and he still was almost close to winning. That's how the game went.
Okay.
So one of the big important things about his list is that it's basically, and it tries to build an LRL list. It's all comers. Like, it plays against any kind of matchup versus like the Sentinel spam list or all Fox list, which is basically like, I would have loved to play against the all Fox list. Like,
Yeah, because you have shit.
yeah, because I have guns. Right. So,
Yeah.
and also in this mission, it's actually incredibly hard for Lumineth to bring their guns to bear, right? But overexposing themselves. So in fact, like, I made him go first, and the Lore Seeker wasn't like. Sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say, this is the one mission where actually the range isn't enough. Like, every
Yeah,
other
exactly.
mission, it's like the best
And, like,
mission to face someone.
He was so like punished because the Lore Seeker can't go in anywhere outside of his own territory because like there's no objectives. Like, it's only in the corners. So like he can't really do anything that he does, score seek.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like the entire game was basically mine to win, right? And he still almost squeezed out of a win out of it. And the way the progression of the game went was that I made him go first. He basically did nothing because he was just like, I can't commit any resources because I don't know what you're going to do, and there's nothing I can do. And then on turn 2, when with priority rolls, when he made me go first, which is good for him because if I win the priority roll, I'm like, you're going first again and doing nothing. So losing a turn. But because he won the initiative roll, he made me go that turn. And I basically reposition all my boats in a way where, in terms of describing it based on the map, if you look on the bottom side of his territory and objective, that's where his Venari Sentinels were, and his Cathalar, and 5 of the Wind Chargers. And I basically focused on owning his vice objective in that point, and his vice objective on the upper point. And I just removed the Sentinels. And they were surprisingly durable because they had protection of Ish from the Wardens, and they were also sitting on Mystical. So even if I was so I focused down the Wardens to just remove them, if I remember correctly how the game went. Just remove them so they didn't have protection of Ish anymore, but they were still sitting on a 6-up shrug. And the game basically went down. I had to dedicate all my resources into just killing that flank, just basically removing the Wardens and the Sentinels. And then the rest of the army was pretty much untouched. I think I shot the 10-man Dawn Rider unit, but they just didn't take any casualty based on dice roll. And then on his following turn, he said, all right, well, I can't really compete for the objective 2 and 3 through combat, so I'm just going to take it away from you by just moving there. And then he sent this big unit of Dawn Riders to take my objective, which was on the other side of the table, instead of committing them to fighting things that we're not going to be good at killing effectively. Right. So he played it smart. The Lord Regent tried to get into combat, but then proceeded to die. And then the Lore Seeker barely got on the objective on his own side. And then it came down to a turn 3 initiative roll. And I think, if I remember correctly, I won the initiative roll. And I basically removed all the Wind Chargers, all the Dawn Riders, except the ones who were in my backfield. And all he had left was basically his Lore Seeker, Alethiana, and Alathor, and his his big unit of Dawn Riders. And that game was still pretty close because I made 2 tactical mistakes during the game. I picked the wrong battle tactics 2 times in a row. And the worst part is, like, every time I picked them, immediately during my movement phase, I'm like, yeah, I picked the wrong battle tactic. Before I even rolled a single dice, I realized, like, it's day 1, round 3. I'm tired. I'm drunk. I only slept like 3 hours, and I'm not trying to make excuses for myself, but this is like something that's incredibly important for you guys to, like, for players who don't play at tournaments, is that fatigue is a real thing. And I was fatigued, and I made the wrong decisions for battle tactic. And he was, even though I'm just clearly tabling him, he was like the points did not say that on the board.
So
and
what battle tactics did you use?
I think I picked Slay the Warlord, and then just end up realizing like I didn't need to kill I wasn't going to try to kill the Warlord that turn. And then I think I picked Conquest in a turn where I realized like if I roll, like I just ended up rolling badly, and it just didn't end up taking the point away from him. It's just, there was a couple battle tactics, just like there were two, like I could have picked easier ones. The thing about the Vice is that like you have, like for example, Savage Spear or not Savage Spearhead, the one that's where you have
aggressive expansion.
Aggressive expansion. You can only score it on turn 2 and 3, and like an idiot, I chose to not write that down on turn 2 and 3. So on turn, like I just lost that entire battle tactic for the rest of the game. And the thing is, Leonia and L4, I dropped them down to 1 wound, I think 3 times, and every time they got to teleport and heal back to full.
Yeah.
And they were basically like, at the end of the game, they were fighting for points the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, and the end of the game, when they're in the middle, they're going to do damage around 4 and 5.
Exactly. And the Dawn Riders that he basically sent away not to do anything, I could not kill them. At one point, I think on turn 4, they were on the bottom of my objectives, or sorry, not turn 4, turn 3, they were on the bottom of my objective. And I just, like, they were in cover, and they had a mystical terrain piece, and I could not kill them. I like threw the entire army at them, and they just did not die. And I was like, cool. I guess this unit is not. And I felt my 9-inch rollable charge with the Ironclad, which was kind of it's kind of not probably statistically going to happen, but still kind of a bummer. So he kept playing. Like most players, I think when they're positioned, when they look at top of turn 3 and they have like literally 2 heroes and like 8 Dawn Riders left, they're like, okay, cool, like the game's over, and you just kept playing for it. And he almost pulled it out. I think I only won by like 1 or 2 points. It was very close.
Yeah. Having some not only like mental toughness at these events is so understated. Not only like game to game, like you said, Jeremy, being out of it, but then actually scrapping and fighting for points. And trying to win the game or to make your loss a good loss with lots of points to increase your placing, but also like over the course of the whole game. This is game 3. You've already played. At the end of the game, you're coming close to 9 hours of Warhammer, and your mind may just be fried. You probably haven't been eating well throughout the day. If you get a sandwich or a pizza, you've been drinking, doing any other number of activities out on the patio that we had, that are going to slow your mental processes down. It starts to wear on you, but for Anthony to be able to push through and still like keep fighting and getting points and capitalizing on some mistakes that you made, it just shows how great of a player he is. I played against him. I can attest to that. And he's also like a super nice dude. So it was, I'm sure you had a great game like I did against him.
For KO perspective, by the way, on the Vice, please try to do aggressive expansionists on turn 2. Don't do what I do.
Don't go for Slay the Warlord when you don't want to actually target the Warlord.
Oh, but there is no Warlords. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that you were going to say something like you didn't do broken ranks and then you realised there was no battle line units left or something. Because that's happened to me before. Like you realise you can't do that one anymore.
I mean, the Slay the Warlord one was just like, I need to kill the Warlord. And then I realized in the movement phase, do I actually need to kill the Warlord? It was like a weird like question.
So good.
Just one thing before we move on from this one, there was actually an FAQ for the Vice, so they've now changed it so you remove all the objectives and then place a new one, rather than removing 3 of them, because that was causing some issues. Because if you had, in theory, they could all be owned, and then if you remove 3 of them, then it's like technically you're moving one that someone already owns, and then there's nothing in the middle. Then
then you
they still own it.
To own it.
Yeah. So they changed that, which is nice.
That was the one I was afraid of, because if like the scorekeeper basically owns the one that is like the one that like transfers like over the term of the game. It's like, Well, as long as you're within 6 inches of it and I don't kill him, I can't take it. It does not matter what I do. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be really annoying with him actually. Yeah. How did they rule it for this tournament anyway? Did they say that that you just roll off to see which objective moves, or?
No, we played like the fact ruled it basically. Like we didn't really talk about it. We just assumed that like this is a brand new objective on turn 4.
Yeah,
it's not like one that existed because it was too much chaos to resolve.
I don't think the list that you faced on this mission and I faced on this mission, Jeremy, could have been any different because you played like this, like there's like 100 models, lots of kangaroos and stuff. I played against an Ironjawz list with Kragnos and a Maw Crusher. I don't think it could have been middle. It was fun. So
just dump Kragnos in the middle and go, cool. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
shoot him. Usually, it's like
you send your Gotrek into the middle.
Well, I was playing Nurgle, which can put out like 100 mortal wounds, so I wasn't too worried about Kragnos. But no, I was just a comment. Like, I don't think the list we played on the same mission, like, because you're talking about all this like careful maneuvering and like all the way over here and these big shifts, and I'm like, I faced a fucking cabbage and a giant centaur earthquake god. It was funny, but no.
Take cabbage, dump in center.
Yeah, exactly.
Profit.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. So then you made Sylvaneth, which
wow. How did Sylvaneth get all the way up there?
yeah.
I don't think Sylvaneth are as bad as they used to be anymore, are they?
No, not at all. They are really good.
Until the fact, and then
until the FAQ, so they were great, and then they're horrible. Then they were good, and then they're bad.
That's why the FAQ came out to rein them in a little bit. That's a bit too good.
They had their 5 minutes of fun. Now they've got to wait another year.
They're still paying for their sins from first edition AOS and the original Gnarl route.
Kurnoff Hunters.
Yeah. Although Kurnoff Hunters are expensive. They cost like a fortune. But yeah, I guess they're probably worth it. But so we had Naru, Warsong Revenant, Drycha, Spirit of Durfu, Tree Lord Ancient, 3 units of 5 Revenants. 1 was a Tree Revenants, 2 Spike Revenants. 6 Kurnoff Hunters with Scythes, Spell Portal.
Typo.
Where's the typo?
The Conruff Hunters.
Hunters.
Conruff. Oh dear.
We should turn this into a drinking game.
Yeah.
Totally.
I've already been drinking.
Every time we spot a mistake, Lee has to drink.
Well, my drink's empty already, so that's why there's mistakes. Spell Portal and the Spike Swarm Hive. It's 2 drops because most of that's in Battle Regiment.
Yep.
Okay, so
not one. Heroes.
Hey, Jeremy, so I played against our teammate and a great friend of mine, Garrett Mulroney, and on TTS a couple weeks ago, and he was playing as Sylvaneth, and he put Flaming Weapon on the Warsong Revenant too. And I thought he was just, I don't know, momentarily insane. But what is with people putting Flaming Weapon on the Warsong Revenant?
It's because the Warsong Revenant knows all spells from the lore of the Deepwood.
Yes.
So
why choose? Why waste? Like, why put one in if you can have an extra one?
Yeah, you can just make a generic spell. He knows all the spells from the lore of the Deepwood. In any army, it doesn't have to be even Sylvaneth. Like, you can be in cities, living cities, and know all the spells from the Deepwood.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay, well that answers my question. I thought it was
in case you ever wanted to do it, you can put it on him.
Yeah.
This is worse.
People just put Flaming Weapon on everything now. That's just what I see. Every list you look at is Flaming Weapon.
There's a mental image on that because it's like his weapons are basically the vines coming out of the ground and they're flaming. There's a mental image.
Which is awesome.
Forest fire. Oh, no.
Also, quick note for Flaming Weapon, FAQ cleared up, you can put it on like mount weapons and stuff.
Yep. Which thankfully he does not have a mount. He does
he does not, but for example, other people have. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Zombie Dragon, for example. Interesting
and
list. Yeah.
this was on Frontal Assault, so relatively standard mission. Just 3 objectives in the middle.
Basically, this mission comes down to player skill because it's so simple, so straightforward. It's Dawn of War deployment. I feel like it comes down to knowing your opponent's army and being able to counter that.
Well, that is true for every game, but I think it comes down to dice rolls, as every game.
I think every game comes down to dice roll, Max.
That's the truth. I've learned.
learned.
I've learned this in like 2 years playing.
Well,
It's-
I mean, if you have Aethercast dice, then they always roll 6s when you need them to, and 1s when you do battle shock.
Where do I get those?
But only the golden one.
You know what, Jeremy? You've been on Aethercast, so the next time I see you, which hopefully is sooner than LVO, but at least at LVO, I've got some Aethercast dice with your name on it. And if the me giving you dice is anything like me shipping all these guys their dice, I'm going to give you the correct amount of dice.
Literally, my name is on the dice, or you mean just metaphorically? My name is on the dice?
Oh, I will scratch Jeremy very tinily into a dice.
Perfect.
No, I'll get you some Aethercast dice.
Yeah, just make sure there's no typos when you scratch that dice, that name. So,
Jeremy.
Yeah.
double R. Although there was a typo in your name, Jeremy. When
Oh my
the
god!
first time we
I
said
did
your
catch
list.
that one. I caught
So
that
I put
one.
I put an extra E in it between the M and the Y. So
It's all right. My last name is it's from like a dead dialect in France, so nobody knows actually it's spelled.
I spelled your first name.
No. Lee got the complicated part right. It's the simple thing that he just.
No, because you say that, Tom, but I've spelled place there 4 different ways in different places and had to correct it. But all of them got corrected before the show. Just other mistakes made it in. But so how did this game go?
How did this game go?
Okay. Do you want me to because I'm on Team America and I do a lot of basically wargaming outside of wargaming, meaning I was like, let's walk through scenario building. And in this game, he had the choice of going first, right? And he decided to go first. Right. He decided to go first because he was so this is a player who he's good. He knows the basics. He's a very good player. Doesn't really have the experience against KO. Right? And he looked at the game and just thought about how he did not want to get shot to death. And he went to go first so he can buff himself up to be defensive. And I try to explain to him, you're just setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up to get punished if I double turn you. And that's literally what happened. So the game basically transitioned where he kept the Kurnoff Hunters in reserve because he wanted them to get shot. And I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to shoot the Kurnoff Hunters. They're not a target priority on my list. They're in terms of all the things I have to be afraid of. Durthu is one of them. Drake has another one. And the Warsong Revenant is the worst one of all. Because anytime you cast that stupid spell, you hit not only the boat, you hit the 3 characters inside the boat, and the unit inside the boat. Your Kurnoff Hunters are the lowest target priority list I have. But he kept them in reserve. We actually ended up not punishing him, but it was that's a gamble. Do not do that. And I'm about to explain why. So the game went where he basically souped himself up, moved up the field, didn't even actually fight on the 2 edge objectives. He only scored the center objective. So he basically allowed me to just get away with murder, which is position myself on turn 1, get the objectives, not actually be in a charge distance. And I did teleport the Ironclad, aka Sky High, the Ironclad, in his back corner of his deployment zone. Basically, I told him, hey, if you want to come chase this, go right ahead. Come chase this Ironclad. It's nowhere near the objectives. And if you do kill it, I think I can still, at that point, those units are irrelevant for most of the game. Even though they can teleport with woods, it required him to summon woods near them to do that. So I was just cool. I'm going to do this kind of gamble approach. I literally did no damage no damage on turn 1. Like I think Draka took like 1 wound. Like overall, like there's almost no way of punching through like most of Sylvaneth. Like and the drill cannons just didn't trigger any more wounds or anything. It just was irrelevant. But then I specifically did this so I didn't have to be punished by the Warsong Revenant. Like if you wanted to mortal wound the Ironclad, it would be away from everything else in my army. Like if he was going to dedicate resources to the Ironclad, it was being away from the rest of the army. Turn 2 initiative roll, I won the double turn. And that's where I was just like, okay, well, now you're just trying to convince me I have to gamble. And I did. I basically repositioned all my... Since I had 2 objectives, there was no incentive for me to take the center one. I had more than him. So all I did was basically reposition on the leftwards objective and just shoot his Warsong Revenant dead because he was in public enemy number 1. That's all I cared about shooting. But before I did that, I managed to drop the Warp Lightning Vortex of the Ironclad, and they hit Durthu, Drika, the Tree Lord Ancient, a bunch of Revenants, and it just basically did its job. I've never rolled so high in my life with that thing. It like on Drika, it rolled like double 6s for mortal wound generation. I think it did 8 more wounds to Drika. And then when I activate the first gun hauler, I said shoot Drika, and he rolled a 5 to hit, and then Draka died. And that was all that happened. And the rest of the army basically just shot the Warsong Revenant, killed him. And I didn't bother with any of the other Durthu or Tree Lord Ancient because Durthu was kind of in this weird position where, like, if there was this terrain feature between the left outward objective and the center objective, where if you wanted to get to the units on the objective, because my entire army was on the leftward objective, except for 1 gun hauler, he had to just walk around this terrain feature. He could not teleport to get a better vantage point. And because of Spite Swarm rules, and how teleportation, like some reserve mechanics work, the best he was going to get out of charge distance out of the Kurnoff Hunter was a 9. If he had just deployed them and just gotten hit with the Spite Swarm, he could have just used the Realm Roots to just put himself 9 inches away, but only had a 6-inch charge. But because he was so afraid of my shooting, he thought I was going to kill the Kurnoff. He just not do that. But then he was not punished at all. He ended up making his 9-inch charge on the Tree Lord Ancient and the Kurnoff. And he killed the Ironclad in that turn, but that was it. Like that's all he killed was the Ironclad, and he still didn't take the objective away from me because the guys inside the Ironclad basically were able to I killed 1 Kurnoff, so they were only like 10 models, and I had 10 models, and then the Tree Lord Ancient died from other activations, and so it didn't matter for purposes of the turn, and so the rest of the flow of the game is just me basically mopping up. And to be honest, like I did not kill the Kurnoff Hunters. I focused on trying to just keep scoring points and like whittling down Durthu. And like the Admiral tanked like a boss. Like he just tanked the Kurnoff Hunters for the rest of the game, like effectively. So more of the story, it was like he was not penalized for any decision making. But he was definitely like I thought he was taking a huge gamble by just not putting them on the table and benefiting themselves.
I mean, I think he was penalized for his first decision, which is not taking one of the other 2 objectives that he left open. I mean, that's 2 victory points right there that he left on the table, but then also allowed you to score those points very easily. But yeah, I know what you're saying about the Kurnoff Hunters, but good on you to kind of putting yourself out there with the Ironclad and making him split his forces and split his attention.
Well, he didn't take the bait, though, because he never had an opportunity to, right? Because I got the initiative roll. But to point back on 100%, like that is, like, if you have Spite Revenants, use them to just take an objective early in the game and just as a throwaway unit. I was like very, very confused why he didn't do that.
90 points would have netted him 2 extra victory points.
Exactly.
And he could have done aggressive expansion as well.
He would have had one. He would have had 1, 2, and more.
Yeah.
No, but he only needs like 1 objective already gets you more.
He already had more.
He already had more, so it would have netted him 1 point.
Yeah.
You muted yourself, Matt.
Good.
It's yours.
Good. We don't need to listen to that guy. That guy speaks a bunch of shit.
We got a question from the chat, which is, how were you able to shoot the Warsong Revenant if he was in a forest? Because
he was
invalidate concealment anymore.
Well, so firstly, the Warsong Revenant wasn't actually in the forest, but even if he was, the Ironclads have more than 10 wounds, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Does it count?
Yeah.
Does it matter if this unit that's shooting, or is it the unit that's getting shot at with 10?
I
has
thought
10
the
or more
unit
wounds?
inside the wood.
Nope. The Awakened Woods like rule is basically if anything has more than 10 woods, it just straight up ignores the fact that you have woods.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's the receiving or the at least the base on like, but it didn't matter because his Warsong Revenant was not in the woods. He basically put it like on the side of the woods and was not in the woods. But as far as I recall, the Awakened One rules was if you have 10 wounds or more, you do not care about line of sight blocking.
Yeah, another remark to Durfu and the Tree Lords is before you always tried to do a couple of chip wounds to bracket them, but now with the new command ability in Gur, they don't care. They just go full 6 damage on the weapon, whatever it is. So that's why also they're so good now, because that was their big problem. Like they lost 3 wounds, I think, and they just went down from 6 damage to D6 damage.
And I'll be honest, the Warp Lightning Vortex like definitely chipped. And then the second fact is I used the terrain feature to make that Durfu charge like 12 inches. So I felt comfortable about him not making it.
Okay, and you said the Warp Lightning Vortex did 6 mortal wounds to Dreicher, and then the torpedo
8
shot the
mortal
other
wounds.
3 off. 8 mortal wounds.
8 mortal
All right.
Yeah. That's I've never rolled so high in a Warp Lightning Vortex before. Like it's like the rest of the army was irrelevant, but just the fact that it did 8 mortal wounds of Dryka meant like I did not have to dedicate any resources to trying to kill this 0 up save model. Basically.
Yeah, that's significant. I always find my Warp Lightning Vortex does the damage to the stuff I don't need it to, and not to the stuff I need it to.
But that's why why I take drill cannons, because the drill cannons have this weird thing where if you roll slightly above like within averages, like they make the rest of the shooting like more probable, because like anytime you do 3 mortal wounds to a single character, it's like, well, now like the equation's kind of like swinging in my favor in like most cases.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that game was probably won turn 1 by your opponents.
It was one of them.
Mostly. Yeah.
I
Was
agree
that
with
game 4 or game 5? So
Game 4.
Yeah, it must be game 4. Yeah.
Game 4.
So we got one more. So last. Oh
So
yeah.
top,
Soulblight again.
top table, turn 2, day 2.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to point out that you should have no illusion. I'm not a good player. I'm just a very lucky one. I'm trying to get in Max's head right now because we're gonna probably play it this weekend. This next week. I'm not a good player. I'm just very lucky, Max. That's all you have to worry about.
That's great. We're the same.
Break. Yeah.
Lee once said, I'm the best player that never won anything. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I said that. You?
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, you're a good player, but you never win anything. So I take that as a compliment. Which is not true. I win best painted. So yeah.
Oh,
I think it's definitely lucky that you never had to fight like a Morathi, Daughters of Cain, or an Arcus Zenchar kind of like those really big murder lists that are walking around right now.
There was no Archaon Zinch at this event.
That's not true. There was one.
Was there really an Archaon Zinch?
Yeah, it was played by a very narrative player who did not play.
Oh, that's right. And there was a Daughters of Cain player, but I don't think it was like a super competitive list.
It was. He was so the guy who played the Daughters of Cain and the Sylvaneth army I played against, they were ex War Machine etc/ players. They're actually quite competent at like miniature gaming. They're transitioning into AOS right now. And the person that did play the Morathi list was very competitive. He's just haven't made the whole transition from War Machine to AOS yet.
I gotcha. Hey guys, before you get into this, I just want to say that I gotta jump off a little early here. Sorry about that, but you know, the show is only going to get better from this point on because of that. So no, but thanks for having me on again, Jeremy. It was great to see you, and I really hope it's not all the way until LVO that we get to hang out again. But even if we do, LVO is going to be fun. LVO is going to be a good time.
It's going to be a great time. But also, why would you hang out with me? I'm just an asshole. So go.
What? Get out of here! I got some Aethercast dice for you the next time I see you. But so long, everybody. Thanks a lot.
First coming on, Matt. See you soon. Okay, so then there were 4.
And now we can fly high. Hooray!
Okay, so last game, Soulblight Gravlords again. So you mentioned earlier because Matthew Jones. This is quite a different list though, because Avengori Dynasty. That's how you say that one. Double Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, Manfred, and a Necromancer. 3 units of skeletons, 20 Grave Guard, and an Emerald Life Swarm for 4 drops. So I mean, what did first of all, like, what did you think going into this, seeing double zombie dragons?
I thought that this was going to be. I'm going to be mean, but I was like, oh, good. I built a list against this kind of list build. Like, I thought it was going to be a very easy victory. And it ended up not being that way, not foreshadowing anything. But it was definitely like I felt like with going into this game, like I based my strategy point. Okay, he's only got 50 models I actually have to give a shit about, and then maybe 51 models based on one zombie lord or Manfred. Like, so I felt like it was a pretty good pairing for me in terms of the last round.
It's an interesting list. I wonder why one Vampire Lord is not Prince Ward, right? Because
mostly
could work out with points.
That's a very good question. I was kind of wondering the same thing too. I think it's because if he take Prince Fortrai, he doesn't get the Avengori Allegiance mechanics, so he doesn't get the -1 to be wounded in combat and all that stuff. He just doesn't get any of the Allegiance mechanics with Avengori.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So were you just? Was your strategy here was like you're just going to try and ignore the zombie dragons as long as possible, and kill all the skeletons?
Yeah, my strategy going in was very simple. It was like try to get the navigator to slow one down and seeing if the second one's going to commit to chasing my boats, and then keep pressure on his objectives and try to chisel away at all of his skeletons and grave guards. But I don't know where the grave guards are going to be until effectively turn 2, and this is definitely a turn. This is, a game where basically he got to the same situation where I made him go first, and then I lost initiative on turn 2, and he was able to make, I think it was a 10-inch or 11-inch charge off one zombie lord dragon, and it killed the Ironclad, and that basically made it like more of an even standstill from the rest of the game. But it was kind of like it was already kind of a high. Like the difference is like if he didn't kill the Ironclad, it was that I would have basically removed all of his surprise sorcery mechanic, so it was just going to be a bigger win, which in retrospect would have mattered in terms of the tournament. But in terms of that, it was the game was flowing. It was in total KO control the entire time. So the way the game played effectively is he had a Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon between objective 1 and 2 from his top left, and another zombie dragon on his backfield between objective 2 and 3. And then Manfred was basically sitting by objective 1, which is basically his top left. And all I did with the navigator was basically pick one of his zombie lord dragon and just say, cool, you don't get to move, you only get to move half speed. And then I repositioned my army to basically hit his third objective down his line as hard as I could, and not the entire army, it was just really the Ironclad and one gun hauler, and that was it, because the rest of the frigates and gun hauler can shoot his units from my home objectives. I didn't have to leave my objectives, basically. So I just kind of like shifted in this L shape. And they basically I kept trying to remove skeletons off objectives, and I did. I removed one unit of skeleton, and I pinged away in another. I didn't roll extremely well on turn one, so I didn't get to kill 2 units of skeleton, but I did kill like one of them, the one that mattered on the objective. And then so his Zombie Lord Dragon ended up being further away, because I think his charge was 10 inches to get to the Ironclad, and because the Ironclad was not even on the objective, is in like no man's land between my territory and his deployment zone, and he ended up making the charge with a reroll, I think, killing the Ironclad, but didn't really like impact the guys inside too much. But it didn't change my protocol. Like from that point forward, like next turn I ended up because he won priority, I got to sit on the bottom of turn 3 and just focus down the one Zombie Lord Dragon on that corner, and basically from that point forward, just basically keep chipping away. The second Zombie Lord Dragon came over eventually, and then just ended up dying. Like he really didn't do anything of importance. The army was basically left down to 10 skeletons and Manfred and a Necromancer, and the only reason it got prize sorcerer was because Manfred was the only model I could kill in the second half of the game, because I lost the Ironclad early. 1 and 2 and 11 inch charge. The Graveguards did their job. The problem with the Graveguards is they killed the boat, took a bunch of casualty in the process because of bombs and unleash hell. That they from not the boat itself, but the guys inside the boat. That when the guys came out of the boat, they just took the objective back. So he basically committed these Graveguards and then didn't get the objective. So the next turn, all the Arcanauts just shot the Graveguards dead. It was like a huge I think that really threw him off his game, like mechanically speaking, because he just felt like he was never going to win from that position, losing all of his Graveguards after killing a boat and getting nothing in the process. I think it really played with him psychologically.
Yeah, when something like that doesn't go to plan, and you just basically throw a unit away, and you don't get anything. Yeah, it's hard to sort of, take it in your stride and think, well, okay, what am I going to do to win now? Sometimes, see it sometimes as well. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Matthew even explained to me at the table. He's like, he designed this list to play against giants, and he says specifically, I can't. Soulblight can't beat giants and KO. You have to pick one. Like if you're going to design a list, you have to pick your extremities. And it's kind of like that matchup where you just felt like, shit, I got paired into KO. There's a good chance this list just doesn't work against his army. And he was right. It just did not work. At no point did I feel like I was I was in control of the entire game. In terms of it was never close. I just never felt like I wasn't an opportunity to get killing his, because in Old Town Throwdown, is if you prevent your opponent from scoring his grand strategy, you get an additional point.
Right.
And if you prevent your opponent from scoring in a battle tactic, you get an additional point. And that's what the difference was between me in first place for the event, because we had 2 players who were 5-0. I lost by 1 point because I did not deny. I lost it. I did not deny any. I needed to deny one more battle tactic or one more grand strategy.
Okay.
So that's quite a big difference in the way that they're scoring, actually, because the battle tactics has potentially 5 extra points a game. It's a big swing if someone doesn't. Big swing if someone doesn't get a battle tactic, because they lose 2 and you gain 1. Makes them a lot more worthwhile than the objectives.
Well, Tom designed it it's interesting to me, because the idea is that if I prevent my opponent from scoring grand strategy or battle tactic, I'm winning the game. But also now I'm also in a better position to win the event. And it's kind of this weird thing where it's kind of a double ramification for not doing something. because it punishes you for, hey, you might lose the game because you didn't do this, but also it impacts like your overall performance on the event.
Was that extra point? Was that just for tournament points, or was it for the game scoring as well?
Well, denying was only for a tournament. It had nothing
Okay.
for the game actually itself.
Okay. Okay, not as big as I thought it was then. Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, I tried, like, we played it out. Like, I was just like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, if this happens on turn 5, I can maybe prevent you from scoring your, I can prevent you from scoring a battle tactic, which is give me that extra 1 point for a tie for first place. But I didn't know this because our game only lasted like 45 minutes, I think, in terms of like the entire game. And we just basically we played it out as far as we could, and then I ended up not denying him that battle tactic on turn 5. And I bought a bunch of drinks for my teammates and Chris Hernandez, which was like competing for my challenger. Basically, we were competing for first place at that point. And then I hand him the drink. He's like, "Oh, I beat you by 1 point, Jeremy." I'm like, "Cool!" like there's nothing I can do at that point. Like it's just kind of like both of our games ended up. Both of our games ended up in effectively 50 minutes for round 5.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, we've covered the games. I mean, we're in a weird situation now where obviously the FAQ has changed things. So you just play like we can take some takeaways from this, but then other things are completely changed. So going forwards, I mean, I know you play other armies as well as KO. So do you think you'll be taking KO to more tournaments, or do you think you'll be taking other armies?
So I'll be honest. Sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, if you are you going to take the same list, or are you going to change it up a bit? Second back to the list.
It's impossible to change because the way KO plays in terms of battle line, they're so restrictive in how you can take battle line units, other battle line units. It's incredibly hard to change the list. Like I could play Barak Urbaz and have the gun haulers as battle line, but I think Barak Urbaz is like a mistake. Like the biggest thing is like that run, retreat, shoot, and charge article, or I think amendment is actually what it's called, is such a crucial mechanic in that like every game I've played that I'm just like I can't give that up. So I have to figure out a way to like squeeze that in and also have more battle line. And it's very hard to fit because in Barak Nar, like the command trait has to be taken by any hero. Doesn't matter. So you can't get the Admiral being a general and getting the extra article amendment. And then Barak Urbaz, I think, is like the one rare spot where you can actually split.
What about Zilfin? Because if the Admiral is not the general, then you can do Collector.
And your frigates become battle line.
Yes, but it means to get the amendment, to get the run, retreat, and...
okay.
So
if I can have that command trait.
So if I take Barak Zelfin in this setup, I'm sacrificing an extra artifact and just playing a spell in the bottle, which is not a bad, like, there's nothing wrong with that trade-off, but it is like a willing
Wait, why? You can take Collector.
No, because I want the Admiral to be general to take the extra amendment to have the run, retreat, and
Well, if you take the Admiral as general, then you need to take the Zilfin trade.
You don't even get a spell in the bottle at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the thing. That's what you're saying. You can't put it in.
You're basically giving up Flare Pistol. Zilfin means you don't have Flare Pistol.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say the main thing. It sounds like is the amendment. That's because the weird thing is like I played an oddly similar list, but also very different list. Like it was custom Skyport, the exact same heroes, 3 units arcs, but then I had a bunch of Thunderers. So all the boat side of the list is completely different. But for much of the same decision making, like I had Collector, Spell in the Bottle, and Flare Pistol. I had the exact same like Grudge, Gold, and Retreat, Run, and Shoot, Charge. I barely used that, and I was thinking until the FAQ come out, I'm going to go back to Zilfin. And now the FAQs come out, like, oh, yeah, that Run, Retreat, Shoot, and Charge is all of a sudden amazing.
Yeah, it's like the most significant like ability in that book. And the problem also I run into is like if you take Collector on Aetherchemist and Zelfin, you don't get a spell in the bottle unless you have a second Aetherchemist. It's kind of like this weird situation. I'm like, God damn it! like the army list is so right, or you are a Warlord.
Yeah.
But the whole point is like you're trying to stay below 4 drops. Like if I play KO, I'm like I'm trying to stay below 4 drops as much as I can. Because the 1-drop KO list, I'll be honest with you, is not a good list. It's like consistently a bad list in my experience. Every time I design a 3.0 1-drop KO list, I'm just like, I do not like this list. This is very bad.
Because you need to put so many points in troops. Like you need to bring 20 Arcanauts. And
One boat.
Well,
One
you can
boat.
take gun haulers as troops, but
Right, that's
troops.
or in Sylvan the frigate becomes battle line is also a troop.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
But you're so static. You're so static. I hate that. Like that's the big things that I hate about like the 1-drop list is you become so static.
no, I agree. 1-drop in KO. I was trying to beat low drop, and I was like, okay, what can I do to make a 1-drop that I want? I make the list, and it's like, okay, what do I spend these 500 points on that I'm left with?
Yeah.
Like, do I go 60 Arcanauts, or what am I doing?
2 drops is a you can do some cool things with 2 drops. Having like a pretty maxed out battle regiment, and then an ironclad kind of
The
deal.
Ironclad in the regiment.
Yeah, the
At least one
frigate.
frigate.
Have a gun hauler.
There's a frigate or a gun hauler, and then
Yeah.
or a
Yeah,
second
you can
ironclad.
have one
You know?
frigate, one ironclad, 2 drops. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Take
I'm gonna. I have to use the bathroom because I have drank most of this scotch. It's very nice, and I feel like the audience probably is tired of us talking. But anyway, I'll be right back.
Oh, well, that's a new one.
Yeah, I was going to say that if we could probably end the show then if you want to go.
Oh, now we have to
I
wait.
Yeah.
On
The
that
funny
note.
thing is that if you manage to drink enough scotch to need to do it, that's a lot of scotch. Scotch.
Yeah.
Like scotch, you drink little shots. That's
Well, you put like dry in it or something, surely.
Yeah. Well, Bill Souza told us that he has a list of how much his teammates are allowed to drink at the AOS Worlds to still be able to make decisions. And I've seen that cheat sheet, and it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff they drink that they're allowed. They have an allowance what they're able to drink each round. So
yeah.
interesting.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sorry. Like I never left. I had my headphones on. And I do apologize for that. But like we've practiced not only just our spirits in the matchup and wargaming, but also practice and literally drinking. Because our one practice away. For context, I was responsible for buying all the alcohol for the team. I spent $1,300 on US dollars on liquor for that weekend. So I can tell you right now, if you're hoping that the Americans will be very bad players after drinking, you're going to be very disappointed in the pocketbook.
Yeah, I guess so. After seeing that list.
Yeah. Which one? Actually, I'm kind of curious, Mass. Which one were you?
Oh, Bill, he
thinking,
posted a list like this is what the allowance of my teammates that I'm granting them, and if they go above, like there's a no.
Yeah,
But it seemed a lot. Like.
Oh yeah, no, we have quite a few drinkers on the team, and I'll be honest, like I've played 14 years of Warhammer drunk, so I don't think playing it sober is going to benefit me.
Yeah, that'll be great.
I'm looking forward to it.
So it sounds like you're going to keep the list the same then, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways to squeeze in Thunderers. Like I would love to squeeze in an Arcanaut unit and the Ironclad with Thunderers as well, because that's one of the benefits about like KO is you can, since they're a garrison, you can have more than like one unit inside the garrison. So like I really thought about like how do I squeeze in 10 Arcanauts and 10 Thunderers and like 2 heroes inside like the Ironclad, and I think there's play for it. The problem is now the changes to the fact of the ward save and mortal wounds, like Thunderers just took a nosedive in terms of like playability, just because anything that like if you can bypass saves in this new era of the FAQ, it's incredibly useful. And KO do not have a lot of mechanism that allows them to bypass the save mechanic. The highest rand we get is 2, right? So.
Yeah,
free.
Free only drill cannons.
Oh, sorry, drill cannon. Drill cannon and mortal wounds, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The thing is, if you're relying on the rend on your drill cannons, that means you didn't get the mortal wounds. So
yeah, then you get
Yeah.
one damage instead of 3. Yeah.
It's 3.
I'm telling
right?
you,
2 on average.
14 squads of Sky Wardens with 14 drill cannons. Done. Every list. Perfect. Can't go wrong.
I wish Sky Wardens were in a meta which wasn't around monsters, because next year GHB, when it's not around monsters, Sky Wardens will go up in value. Just because it's like the one thing that Sky Wardens are going to absorb a charge from it is one model, and you're like, this is a really nice rule that I have that I don't get to do anything with.
We'll just wait until the ghosts are meta again, and then once everyone's Nighthaunt, Sky Wardens come back.
Sky Wardens are like one of my favorite units in that book.
I just painted 12 of these fuckers. Killing me inside.
Max, I painted 24 of those fuckers, and I'm still not using any of them.
There they are.
They're so like fun. They're fundamentally like actually quite good if you don't fight anything of a monster. Like it's kind of like this weird situation where like they're good against like they're the perfect unit for KO because they receive charges well and they do damage on these charges, and they're somewhat decent at fighting back. It's like this weird niche where they fit so many of the weird gaps in KO, yet we're not playing an edition where they do well. So,
yeah.
Sky Wardens.
I mean, Sky Wardens and Enemy I'm struggling with at the moment. They're just not into this. But
there's an entire sub-allegiance that's completely negated because Sky Wardens are bad.
Yep.
That's another thing.
Yep.
And Zon's just, I wish I could play Zon. It's got such a nice, like, the lore behind it is my favorite KO lore. That's the military city. They're the ones who go out and do things. You're like, then what do they do on the table? Well, shit all.
I thought Barak Nar was the military city.
Nar is the rich, like the main.
They're the rich boys.
I thought it's Sparta, right? Barak Nar is Sparta, and then Barak Zon is Athens.
No, Zon is Sparta. Zon is the we go and fight, and we get +1 to hit and +1 to wound on 12 Sky Wardens. I'll show you next week.
Yeah, but they have Barak Nar has Grom Vikings, right? That's like that's the entire fluff of like Barak Nar. They have Grom Vikings, which are basically the Danish Vikings, like the elite Vikings.
But the Grunstocks, no, they have like the artillery school, basically.
Oh, that's Barak Nar. That's Barak Urbaz. Barak Urbaz has the
Urbaz. They like the money people.
Right, but they get gun haulers as battle line, and then Barak
which is
Nar
weird
gets
because the gun haulers are also Grunstock gun haulers, so they belong.
Yeah, I know, right?
in Nar. So, I don't know.
We should have gotten the Lumineth treatment. If you take a Thunder unit, gunstock hauler is like gun hauler is battle line. Should have been like that. Should have been the Lumineth treatment.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird place with the battle line in KO. Yeah. Basically, it's 30 Arcanauts.
It's still just Arcanauts. Like there's technically other battle line, but it all comes back down to just Arcanauts.
I mean, Arcanauts are incredibly good for 100 points. Don't get me wrong. Like they're very good.
They're good, but it's a bit, limiting. So that's 300 points of your list right there.
I have started to take just 20-man squads of Arcanauts, and they are doing work. I tell you.
It's a rule design situation. It's a rule design situation.
Can't bear myself. Buy more.
KO is basically about squeezing as much value as possible for every decision you make. And Arcanauts are this weird trade-off where it's like, is an Arcanaut unit a good decision to make, like when I show up to the table? And rarely does it actually pay off in your favor. Unless you do like a build around Arcanauts. Like Arcanauts individually are not a very good decision. But if you do a build around Arcanauts, they tend to have a good payoff. I mean, that's how I look
Their
at them.
bodies.
It's-
Their bodies. Basically,
Yeah, that's how I
what
look
they
at
are.
Mhm.
Which is fine. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you mentioned about Thunderous, but there's not really anywhere squeezing them in. The weird thing about this list is the way you've squeezed so much into it. Like you're exactly 2,000 points, and if you start messing with it by taking things out, then you just take away what the list is. Like it becomes a completely different list. You start having to
you
take out
could
lots of stuff.
you could take out the vortex, and
I've thought about it
yeah,
a lot.
what do you do with 90 points? Yeah, not much.
But if I take out the vortex, I'll probably take out the chemist because I'll be honest, like the chemist
Yeah,
doesn't add that much value.
and you
Get a
could put
second
in
navigator
the
in there.
no dirigible. Does that,
If I
no, it
if I
doesn't.
was gonna take out
No,
the
it's
if I,
just 5 points down.
5.
if I was gonna
180
take out the chemist and the
185.
warp lightning vortex, I would probably bring in an engine master of no dirigibles inside the iron plane.
You know what you
Just
could
because it's
do?
additional
If you took
melee
out-
threat.
If you took out the warp lightning vortex and the chemist, you could fit in. You could swap a frigate to a gun hauler and fit in 10 thunderers if you want. But then you wouldn't have transport for everything.
I'll tell you what, guys. The next major event that's not in Europe, I'm gonna go up with KO, and it's definitely not gonna be this list. And you guys can critique me for whatever it is. No, honestly, it's like if the one change, if I make any change to this list, is like, can I bring it down to 2 drops? That's the one change I would try to target. It's like bring it down to 2 drops.
Yeah. And again,
So
if you
2
want to
bound
do that,
dredge.
yeah, if you want to do that, then you need to take out a frigate, or go into Sylphin.
Sylphin, make them one squad of 30 Argonauts, I guess. But that'll make it 2 drops. But not sure how good a squad of, say, one squad of 30 Argonauts is going to be.
Not very good.
There was someone that had this squad. I can't remember how he did in a tournament. He had a big squad of 30.
It's too static.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Well, in
Chaos
Monarch,
power.
but you run them, shoot them. they
Oh, I
sit.
mean, in Sylphin, they're going to move 10 inches when they run, which is nice.
Yeah.
Still too static.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of KO, at least from my philosophy when I build lists of KO, is like it's mobility and shooting. Like how do I squeeze as much power out of those 2 mechanics I can? And anytime I put down a unit on the board that's not a boat, I'm like, what am I getting out of this? Like, is it any of those things? And rarely it is, unless you're balloons, right? Unless you're original systems.
Okay, so I mean, I think we covered everything. We're verging nearly into 3-hour territory, so we probably need to call it a day. Yeah. But Jeremy, it's been a pleasure to have you on to teach you all about how you use your ships and stuff. It's really interesting, the idea of like creating pockets for when the ships die for troops to fall into. It's quite it's not something I've really thought about because I'm normally thinking about keep the ships alive. But yeah, they do die eventually, so it makes sense to plan ahead for that. Been great to have you on. Good luck at AOS Worlds, which is next weekend, is it?
Next week.
Next
Wednesday.
Thursday, yeah.
It's on a Wednesday. Okay.
Singles is Wednesday, doubles is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Or group.
Yeah.
No, Friday.
Very interesting
Friday,
to see
Saturday,
you.
Sunday.
Interesting to see you and Max play each other.
Oh, I mean, I know Fires today, so that's maybe
There
not the
you go.
matchup I choose. Not with my list.
But yeah, been great to have you on, Max and Kron and Matt as well, who can't hear me say this. Thanks for joining as always. Thanks for everyone in the chat as well. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did like the show, please hit like. Please subscribe for future KO and Age of Sigmar content. And we will see you all again next time, everyone. But until then, goodbye.